Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade and Salciunas. 97.5, The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, this is a conversation that's going to go one or two ways. Either there will be infighting or there will be pitchforks and torches outside of the building today, or some people will go, you know what? I think you're onto something. And the conversation is about whether or not we overrate some of our favorite players because they are our favorite players. We'll get into that and a whole lot more today. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
I believe it would be a failure for the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, if they do not win the NFC East. The Eagles have had a quiet training camp.
And to me, I look at it and say, it's wonderful to have peace and serenity out in South Philly.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Tuesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful, actually.
I agree. I think a Monday off from the Phillies. Honestly,
that might be the
rested.
best thing.
Well, I went to bed early.
Yeah, that's true.
Earliest I ever go to bed.
Yeah.
I was in bed before 8.
Well, you were doing the crazy take the nap before watching the West Coast games.
Yeah, last week screwed me up.
Yeah, I was just trying to stay up as long as I could. I would make it to the 4th or 5th inning and then be like, all right, I'm done. So it was
Feels
nice.
good. Day
and
off,
also
cleansing.
less stress, too, because you're not watching the Phillies potentially lose another game. So
I want to see 38
nice.
go down starting tonight. Magic number of 38 start to plummet a little bit.
Yeah, and this should be a good week for them. Should be a good week. And if it's not a good week, then we're going to have turmoil and we're all going to be losing our minds. Like we said yesterday, the floor is 4-2 when they're taking on the Nationals and the Marlins. Marlins first, then Nationals for 6 games this week.
And I'm fine with that. And yesterday I must have said it to Connor, the 4-2 I'd be fine with. And I had an emailer give me grief about it saying, boy, set the bar low. I don't consider win 67% of your games.
Yeah,
I
that's
do
not setting the bar low. No,
even though I'd love to see a 5-1 week because I think everybody would just go, calm down. Seriously, just calm the hell down.
Kind of, until they play the other opponents.
No, I get you,
and if they struggle.
Yeah, but I think it would eradicate the people who can't do math.
Right.
They're like, they're not going to make the playoffs. This team. That's how bad it is. No, it's not.
So you know what?
Do math.
Screw it. You know what?
Do math.
We're going to get into the Eagles thing in a second.
Yes.
I'm saying 5-1's the floor.
Okay, you're being rude.
No.
That's crazy.
No. You know why?
Why?
It's only a 2-game series of the Marlins.
Okay, that's fine.
And then it's a 4-game series of the Nationals.
Okay.
So if we say 4-2, that means they split with the Marlins and took 3
I don't care
or 4.
I don't care how they do it. If they
I don't
want
to split on any of the two. I don't want to split.
Okay, they win 4 out of 6. I don't care.
But this goes back to the West Coast swing. We wanted, 6-4, 5. They went 500, right?
No, I'm just being serious with that. I don't care.
Okay.
4 out of 6. 4 out of 6. I am perfectly fine.
I just know they were 5-2 in their West Coast trip, and we came back here yesterday morning, and they were 5-5 because they dropped 3 straight. And I know Connor pointed out, well, shouldn't you be happy that they went 500 on a West Coast swing? Yes, normally, but when they're 5-2,
they went 4-6 on the West Coast.
They went 4, and that's even worse. Then. All right, thank you. Say it's even worse.
But you asking for 5-1 is certifiably insane.
No, I think coming off of where they're at right now.
Against the Marlins and Nationals,
dude, it's not just you have to learn to walk again before you can run.
And remember, of the 6 games,
I sprinted out the womb.
2 are Walker starts.
Oh, you guys are all excited about
One is a Phillips start. No, I'm just like I can't believe you're. That anti
5-1.
They need him back.
Come on, man. Be greedy. I'm gonna be greedy about it.
Okay, you set the 5-1 floor. I'll set the 4-2 floor. Connor, you're with me, right?
Yep, I'm with you.
Connor's gonna say 2-4, and it's okay. Don't worry about it.
No, he's not.
Just like Tyrone with Brian Johnson.
This is what people do to me. Like, if you disagree with me, I'm crazy, but I set realistic expectations every single time.
All right. So I want to get into something about this Dan Orlovsky list that we sort of touched on at the end of the show yesterday, and it's really been making
well
us think.
done, though.
Oh, yeah, fascinating.
I dove into it yesterday.
And
it's well done.
It's different. It's not the same old top 10 list that we normally would do. But before I do that, I just need to bask in my glory a little bit.
What's that?
Can you play the music that I asked you to play? Dude, it was 61 degrees this morning.
Oh, it was nice.
Dude, walking into my car, I'm wearing a sweatshirt today and shorts. Walking into my car, I know it was, 4:30 in the morning. Most people aren't awake and doing things yet. Dude, it felt like football weather this morning.
It's 58 at my house right now.
Hey, you're more
so I
north.
don't even know.
Makes sense.
So I don't know what. I don't know what it was when I
was.
left. I don't know what it was when I left this morning. It says 58 now at the house.
Dude,
I'm like, wow.
It
felt good.
It got me fired up, man. I was like, oh, the crisp air is out there. Yesterday, yesterday was lawn mowing day, and a cold breeze hit me at one point when I was mowing the lawn. I was like, dude, football season is upon us.
And of course, your favorite season. Shorts and hoodie.
I'm a big shorts and hoodie guy. Yes.
You are an advocate of the shorts and the hoodie, which is a great.
It's a very great combo.
It's more of a Sunday, Saturday morning thing.
Yeah, I got you.
More of a Sunday, Saturday.
Yeah,
Most people have to be grown-ups when they go to work, unlike us.
Nope, we are not grown-ups when we come here or even when we're at our house. All right, so yesterday, Dan Orlovsky put out this list that we thought was pretty interesting because it's different. He put together a top 10 list of seven different categories for quarterbacks. So let me explain, because if you weren't listening at like 9:35 when we first brought it up, he broke down 7 categories: arm strength, ball placement, mechanics, decision-making, pocket presence, rushing ability, second reaction. So, we've complained about one-read quarterbacks in the past. Being able to do that second read, being able to keep his eyes downfield, being able to move around in the pocket, and if a play breaks down, being able to then run for a first down or find somebody else when the play breaks down. So of those 7 statistical categories, Dan Orlovsky had 7 different top 10 lists. And again, we talked about this yesterday. Jalen Hurts is in 2 of them. That does not mean that he stinks. He just went really deep into this. Nobody is saying that Will Levis is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Will Levis is on a list that Jalen Hurts is not on. Nobody's saying that Gardner Minshew is a top 10 quarterback, let alone a top 20 quarterback, but he is in one of these top 10 lists. I believe he was in the second reaction ability. Yes, he was 9th on that list, according to Dan Orlovsky. So of those 7, Jalen Hurts was in the top 10 of 2 of them. One being rushing ability, which I think we all agree with.
No one's even going to discuss that one.
And he had him 4th behind Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
And then he had him in the second reaction ability. He had him at 8th, which I'm sure there are some Eagles fans, and myself included at times, where I go, is he even worthy to be in the top 10? 2 years ago, absolutely. Last year, no. But again, is this what have you done for me lately, or is this what I believe this guy can do?
This is based on, you're allowed to use every bit of data, because I heard him explaining it on television yesterday.
Okay.
He's allowed to use every bit of data that he knows at the NFL level on these guys. So it doesn't just mean, okay, this list has been updated for this year.
Right.
Every bit of data that he knows about this guy and they even did talk about coming out of college and stuff. So it's not just based on last year.
Okay. And remember, the one that we all agreed we thought he should have been in was ball placement, because we have seen him make some stellar throws. But again, the names that are in the top 10 are Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, who it's not like he has to throw deep passes. He just has to get it to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Then he could have Joe Montana's career.
Right, exactly.
Who literally threw the ball 10, 15 yards, and everybody's like, greatest quarterback ever, Joe Montana.
But his receivers were open all the time.
And he 10, 15-yard passes most of the time.
Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Josh Allen. No Jalen Hurts.
I got to tell you, no way. How about this? Ball placement with Jalen Hurts. No way does Josh Allen belong on a ball placement list. He is one of the biggest interception machines in the NFL over the last 3 seasons, not just one. He threw better than an interception a game last year.
Right.
He throws an interception a game the last 3 years of his career. No way is Josh Allen better in ball placement, because he keeps placing it in the opponent's arms.
Right.
I don't believe Dak Prescott is better at ball placement.
Dude, I'll say Brock Purdy.
I don't think Geno's better.
I'll say Brock Purdy I don't think is better, because I saw a lot of his games last year where he would throw it and his receivers were saving some of those plays. I did not think his accuracy was all that great.
I think Jalen has some of that too.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, Jalen usually throws it. Very rarely do you say Jalen Hurts threw that ball up for grabs, unless he's just chucking it downfield for something.
Right.
He occasionally with Jalen on like the slant routes and everything, he'll throw it behind the guy,
Slightly behind the play,
and they'll have to come back and get it. He'll expose his receivers. But ball placement, I completely disagree with Dan on that one. The fact that there's somebody, Josh Allen should be off the list, Jalen Hurts should be on it, and then I think Jalen could even climb in the stands.
So the beauty of these lists is it always leads to conversation. It always leads to debate whether or not you believe his list is accurate or not. But here's the deal. Here's what we're going to try to discuss today. And we would love your input on the text line, the phone line at 610-632-0975. So Dan Orlovsky, whether you agree with him or not, is a guy who played quarterback in college, in the NFL. I know everybody likes to point out him running out of the end zone. He knows more about playing quarterback than any of us do. And oh, by the way, he has now turned his career into an analyst, and he does this for a living, breaking down quarterback
play. He's good at it.
And he's very good at it. So of these top 10 lists, out of these 7, like I mentioned, Jalen Hurts is in the top 10 of 2 of them. And one of them, he's, in the back half where he's 8th, and that's the second reaction ability. And it made us think, and you brought up the question, and I think it's a fascinating question that we can turn into all of the players in this city, or at least all of the stars in this city. And it's whether or not we overvalue Jalen Hurts. Maybe we overvalue some of the other stars in the city, but obviously Jalen Hurts is the first player that we're going to talk about. And I don't mean overvalue, maybe overrate should be the word that we use, because I think that's something people just know more.
I think it's one where you would say, if other people in the country are talking about Jalen Hurts, do they speak about him differently than we do? Do they speak of him in less revered terms than we do? And I really think it's a subject of debate, because there are many, I think, that where Jalen Hurts is valued more outside this city by some people.
We did the top 100 players list voted on by the players, and he was in the top 15.
Correct.
The NFL Coaches Executive Scouts poll had him at 13th among quarterbacks, not 13th in the league, 13th among quarterbacks.
And that tells you that the players think that list was completely absurd. That they look at Hurts at one level.
Right.
And executives maybe look at Hurts another level.
Right.
Who would you trust more?
I've said executives and coaches and scouts, because I don't believe a player can actually watch the league on a Sunday because they are playing on a Sunday. That does not mean I think Jalen Hurts stinks.
No.
He shouldn't be 13th on that list. I value the coaches and scouts more, but I also understand what we have talked about. Some of these guys, like there was one GM who voted for Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes.
Which is crazy.
And that's dumb. That's stupid. That person should be fired today just based off of their voting for a list.
Like, to me, Josh Allen is one of those guys. He is overhyped.
Yes.
For what he has produced in his career.
Incredible.
And there's a lot of
strength.
And there's a lot of games to look at. You're talking about almost 4 full seasons of games that you could look at. He's overhyped. And I think he's a really good quarterback. Right. I don't think he's in the Mahomes category.
I don't think Justin Herbert stinks. I think Justin Herbert is extremely overhyped. I would say more overhyped than Josh Allen. This guy has done absolutely nothing in his career. He's made one playoff, and he choked away a huge lead to Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. So let's start with Jalen Hurts, because this is the jumping off point. And the conversation is whether or not we overrate Jalen Hurts here in this city, and we do it because we have the green goggles on. And I get it, man. Like, I would so much rather have a franchise quarterback than not. So I might lean on the side of I believe I have one. If I'm on the fence, I'll probably lean the positive.
But do you think we do? I mean, if like our listenership listening right now, like, do you think them driving in their car today or listening at desk or whatever it is, getting ready for work, do you think they think we overrate him, or do you think that we bludgeon the guy?
Oh, dude, I don't believe he doesn't get bludgeoned.
Not on our show, at least. But he does also.
I would say.
I think Jalen Hurts gets more. I think Jalen Hurts gets more positive and more wiggle room as a quarterback than honestly any quarterback as long as I've been doing sports talk radio.
Oh, absolutely, John. When we were reacting to the article that Tim McManus came out with last week. We didn't do pick a side.
No.
We did, hey, let's move forward. Let's use this as a positive that's behind them. Every time somebody did pick a side, whether it was a caller, a tweeter, somebody that was tagging us or not, somebody that was just tweeting it out that I follow or they're on my For You page, it was always screw Nick Sirianni.
Yes.
Like, I didn't see many people reacting to that story and siding with Nick Sirianni. It's Nick Sirianni's fault, and Jalen Hurts was just doing whatever he could. I remember growing up with Donovan McNabb as my childhood quarterback, who still, to this day, with the ability of Jalen Hurts to surpass him, but to this day, Donovan McNabb being the greatest quarterback in Eagles franchise history. People still talk about him today in a negative way.
He's the greatest quarterback that as an Eagles fan, that I ever rooted for.
But the way
Donovan
people talk
McNabb.
about Jalen Hurts, it's
Jalen Hurts
night and day.
Jalen Hurts gets soft pedaled critique compared to the way that, and I've seen them all from Jaws.
Right.
And he gets soft pedaled critique. Now the thing is, though, I think Jalen's done a lot right also.
Absolutely.
That sort of makes me go, hey, but Donovan McNabb, wow.
We've also had the conversation, and it could be for better or for worse. We don't necessarily know yet. It's probably too early to tell. That society has changed. Our way of being fans have changed.
Sure,
it's
has.
not as harsh as it was back then, and maybe that's a good thing, right?
No. It is a good thing. It's not. It's maybe a good thing. It is a good thing.
I do believe still holding people accountable should be a part of everybody's life, but
I got you.
That's another,
but there's
another conversation for another day.
There's a difference between, like, there's somebody who's pissed, like, coincidence. Somebody who's pissed about the Phillies right now and the way they're playing. Completely justified.
Right.
Somebody who's saying, I don't think they're even going to make the playoffs.
That's
this
dumb.
team's so terrible. Then that takes it to the stupid level.
Right.
It's the same thing with quarterback critique that a lot of times, or player critique that happens in this town.
Yeah, like, look, we've had it on the show. We had, I remember a caller, I forget his name and I apologize, who said he's the second, if not third, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. We had a caller, when we did a Jalen Hurts show, we talked about where is he among other quarterbacks. We had a caller say that he's the third best quarterback in the NFL, but I could make a case that he's second. That same day, we had a guy in the text line who said he's 15th. Right, like there's drastic opinions, so that means Jalen Hurts should be somewhere in the middle. But if we say 8th, I think there are some people that
who then see disrespect.
That's too low.
Yes,
he was an MVP candidate 2 years ago, and last year at one point he was an MVP candidate before everything went to crap. Which, by the way, he was part of the reason why everything went to crap.
Yeah, I mean, when he walked off the field against the Buffalo Bills that Monday morning,
MVP,
he was leading the MVP odds.
Yeah, and then
a
couple weeks ago, and he was horrible except for a few games. The team was horrible.
Yes,
and the season fell apart. And the season died, and the chances of doing anything completely collapsed. And you saw that just based off of wins and losses. But then we've since read about it, heard about it with other stories that has come out from that season. But the player, forget all the nonsense of drama. The player, do we overrate Jalen Hurts in this city because he is our franchise quarterback? I would love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. And we can do this, and this isn't going to be just about Jalen Hurts today. We're going to turn this into a lot of players today. We'll talk about Joel Embiid. We'll talk about Bryce Harper. We'll focus on the stars, but then there's also players like you and I talked about it before the show. Bryson Stott.
Yes, who is getting a free pass.
Guys, Bryson Stott stinks this season.
He's getting a free pass for the most part in this town.
Bryson Stott.
Because he has a good walk-up song.
You might be part of it. I have been very adamant for about 2 weeks now. He is not an everyday second baseman the rest of the season. Him and Edmundo Sosa
have to platoon.
Whenever there's a left-handed starter, Edmundo Sosa has done enough to get that starting job. But I feel like when I say it, there's probably somebody in the car that's like, yeah, you're right, but.
Oh, I guarantee you.
I'm one of those people.
You are one of those people. You literally brought up his confidence last week when I said it.
Connor.
It's not a perfect comparison, but we had this conversation 2.5 months ago about Nick Castellanos. Everybody was
I never
killing.
did, though.
Okay, you might not have, but 90% of this fan base was killing Rob Thompson for playing him every day. Saying, this guy stinks, he can't hit anything. Why does he get to play every day when Rojas is platooning and you've got nobody in left field and all this stuff? and you play him and you play him, and eventually he comes out of it. He's been a really consistent hitter for you for a while now. And I know the whole team's slumping, but he's been one of the bright spots.
Yeah, and one of my reasons why I would never have taken him out of the lineup is the old back of the ball card
Right,
thing.
and
Whereas
Stott
Bryson
doesn't truly have that.
No, Stott doesn't
and
have
that's not
it.
his fault. It's only his third year in the NFL.
And now,
MLB.
but the difference,
MLB,
Connor,
thank
is
you.
it's August 13th.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's changed.
And oh, by the way, for the month
Nothing has
for the
changed.
month of August, he's batting. You guys want to take a guess?
Month of
He's
August.
batting
In the
Oh,
month of
12
August,
days in.
90, 0.95.
Still 3, 4, 5,
No,
6,
one-
7.
100.
He's
160 something.
8 games. What did you say?
100.
What did you say?
164, I'll say.
Apologize to John Kincade right now.
What?
He's
Sorry.
batting .097.
That doesn't
Oh, my
surprise me.
apologies.
He's
he
terrible.
is 3 for 31.
He's been terrible.
And he raised his
And he's-
average with his 1 for 4
I
performance
totally
on
understand.
And he's not
Sunday.
getting any better, more importantly. Unlike Nick Castellanos,
You saw him
he's
getting
not
better.
getting any better.
I got you. The reasoning, I think, and I held the same thought with Whit Merrifield, and why I thought that he would get more opportunity before they did release him. I think they see the ceiling of what this team can be, and in their mind, Bryson Stott is the second baseman of the best version of this team, so they're going to give him every possible benefit to get that opportunity.
Well, he's the only ultra sound defensive player in the infield.
That's true.
The one who is, you could say, he is superior.
Yeah.
He's the only one because
So-
you got 3 other guys who are not.
So we're going to do this today. We'll start focusing heavily on Jalen Hurts. I want to dive deeper into this coming up next. Do we overvalue or overrate Jalen Hurts because he is our quarterback? This is not us taking a shot at Jalen Hurts. I just want to know, like, sometimes we go, he's better than that guy. Is he actually better than that guy just because he's our quarterback? Also, we may have witnessed the biggest fleece job in NFL history.
I think we may have.
No, seriously.
It may have.
It may be the biggest fleece job in NFL history, and I'm not just saying that to try to get you to listen to another segment. I think this is actually accurate. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Boy, they're here for the pro.
6:30 on this Tuesday morning. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Our main topic today, whether or not we overvalue some of the players in our city because they are the players in our city. And that's what Fandom's all about. Look, I'm not asking you to question your fandom. I'm not questioning my own fandom. I'm not questioning John's fandom or Connor's fandom. We all have our belief in terms of athletes, whether this guy's good, whether this guy stinks, whether this guy's the best, whether this guy's top 5, whether this guy's bottom 5. We all have our beliefs in terms of ranking players. But I do believe that we probably side a little bit more with our favorites, as we should. But maybe when it comes to overall league stuff, we may overrate some of our players a little too much.
And I think that's fair. And again, look, we talk about it all the time. We love who we love, and we don't who we don't.
Correct.
And so you're always going to have a little internal bias to guys that you like or guys that you critique or otherwise.
I don't mean to pick on Bryson Stott, but last year, I still remember I did a show. Tom Alvord was producing me, and it was right around the MLB trade deadline. And I know Shohei Ohtani didn't end up getting traded, but there was a lot of talk about who could go after Shohei Ohtani. And I remember it was Fox Sports put together a list of this is what a trade package would look like for like these 7 teams.
Sure.
And the Phillies, it was, Andrew Painter. I think Aiden Miller was already on the list. But Bryson Stott was on it. And there were people, John, during my 4-hour midday show that day that were basically telling me I would be crazy to include Bryson Stott in a package for Shohei Ohtani. Like that was the final straw.
That's
Bryson
the level of
Stott.
Absurdity. That is a absolute level of absurdity.
If somebody said no, you can't package Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, you're crazy to do that. All right, fine. We'll have a conversation. Bryson Stott was the final straw for people. They wouldn't have made the trade for Shohei Ohtani.
You said Trey Turner was in that deal?
No, he wasn't even
okay.
in it.
Man,
by the way, Shohei Ohtani's going to...
Why do you want to trade Trey Turner?
Yeah, no, he's very good. He's just not great at fielding.
He's a butcher.
Shohei Ohtani's going to win the National League MVP this year, and people didn't want to trade Bryson Stott for him last year.
Yeah.
That is a prime example of we overrate some of the players that we love. I also do believe the younger, homegrown guy is a big part of it.
Do we overrate players? Do we tend to overrate our younger players?
Absolutely.
And that's what my instinct is. We tend to see potential, and then we overrate the potential.
Yeah,
of what guys are.
And the tough thing, too, is every once in a while you do hit one. Like, I was a big proponent of do not trade Tyrese Maxey for Kevin Durant.
I was
Absolutely.
a big proponent of trading Tyrese Maxey for Kevin Durant.
I was in Connor's.
People called us insane, and they're probably right to.
I was
that
calling
time.
you insane for wanting to not trade a bench player at the time that Doc Rivers wouldn't even play. So it was like...
Right.
No, I got you. I think we got your point on it, but it was the idea of I did not want to see Maxey go.
I got you.
And I'm also not a big Durant guy.
Right. And I am a big Durant guy.
And that may be
that could be part of it.
No, but that could be, in someone's mind, hearing that could be, oh, that's absurd.
But it's worked out. You now have Tyrese Maxey, who is a max contract player and is still extremely young,
He's 22.
Even though he's the second longest tenured player on the Sixers.
He's 22.
That one clearly worked out. You're
but
right.
when you hit one, that makes you feel like, oh, okay, maybe we have a better idea because we watch him every night.
Okay.
And I do think that changes the way that we value
But it's
our own
funny.
players.
There's sometimes where we don't even watch him. Like, nobody watched Jaden Springer. Nobody watched the Delaware Bluecoats. Okay? With all due respect to our great friends in Delaware. Nobody watched the Delaware Bluecoats to actually have an opinion on Jaden Springer. When he got traded to Boston this year for a second-round pick, there was flooding on 76 when I was driving home because of the tears that flooded the Schuylkill that went on to the 76. I couldn't get home because of Jaden freaking Springer.
I don't know, man. NBA champion Jaden Springer.
You are not incorrect with that. I think that I tend to believe we overrate to a far skew our younger players than we do our players that we actually have so much more data on.
Right.
Many, many times.
So the question is, Jalen Hurts is still a young player, and look, he has had success. He was a runner-up for MVP 2 years ago and was better than Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, except for a fumble that bounced off his leg. But in the entire game,
he was the better
quarterback.
No question.
And like that you can't take that away from him. Like that happened. That is in the history books. That game happened, and we all believe that he can get back to that game. So I don't know. Is he overrated? Is he underrated?
I don't think he's. I certainly don't think he's. Jalen Hurts is not underrated in this town. I'll die on that. I'll fight anybody on that one. There is no way
have to fight some people.
There is no way that he is underrated.
Our text line may say otherwise when we get to it.
All right, well, let's check the text line in a minute. You can text in 610-632-0975. We'll check that in a minute. But real quick, the all-time fleece job, maybe in sports, maybe in sports history. I'm not saying this to be funny. Hassan Reddick has requested a trade from the New York Jets.
Yep.
Because of that contract that he was so willing to play under.
Yep.
In New York, not here.
The one that he flat out lied to the Jets about.
Yes.
Lied.
He is now requesting a trade.
Yep.
So Howie Roseman, who traded him for what? It was a third-round pick.
And a fifth, right?
But conditional, so it could be higher.
Well, no, it could be a third. It might be a fourth,
Okay,
right?
It might be a fourth. Either way, he traded away a player and got draft capital in return, not for a guy that, he's cooked, he's not as good as he once was. No, for a guy that might not play. He might not play a single snap for the Jets.
He's good. He's
not
good.
Because of injury, not because of unforeseen circumstances in life. He just doesn't want to play under his contract. He might not play. And Howie Roseman actually got draft capital for it.
And remember now, we now know, the Jets traded for him. The Jets made him a contract offer. He declined the contract offer, but they continued to talk about some numbers that might make sense.
Yes.
And after he got the contract offer and rejected it from the Jets, he said this: whatever happens, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to give my all no matter what. That's just who I am as a person. No matter how it goes, how many years, I'm going to be here for however long I'm here for, and I'm going to give the team and the fans everything that I have. He is a bold-faced liar.
It's amazing, man.
Liar. And he told the Jets that. That's why people are like, oh, the Jets got fleeced. The Jets were fools to believe Hassan Reddick.
Well, I don't know that you can say that.
Wait a minute, how can you misinterpret that quote?
No. It's not misinterpret. They believed him at his word. Aren't you supposed to do that? Why would that be the Jets'
but that's what I'm saying is they believed him. Hassan Reddick is the bad guy in the story.
No, you're right, but the Jets should not be expected to trade for a guy and immediately say, you're lying to our face.
Oh, no, they didn't think it. They actually chose to believe him. I didn't. I said it from the day it is. I didn't believe him. And I'm going, why is Howie so anxious to get rid of him? Now we know.
Oh, and now we know for sure.
He's on his fourth franchise. Think of a player with his production. And other than Clowney was the one we came up with.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up with another. Bouncing around to his fourth franchise.
And look,
at the age of 30.
Whenever he plays with the Jets, he's going to be good.
He will be.
I fully expect him to. If he plays 17 games this year, he's going to be a double-digit sack edge rusher. And it's just crazy that this continues to happen.
And we all lost our minds because I absolutely said I wanted the Eagles to do what the Jets are doing. Play under your damn contract. Play under your contract or don't play. Because we know he's going to cave and we know he's going to play.
Right.
So let him do that for the Eagles. But it's clear Howie knew this is going to be a problem in the locker room. And all you got to do, go take a little search of how many of his Eagles teammates were like, good luck in your next spot, man. We're going to miss you. Man, we're going to miss you, Hassan. Crickets. Freaking crickets.
And this goes back to what I said one of our first shows together. Howie Roseman has reached a status where we shouldn't even question half his moves anymore.
It's unbelievable, though.
Like, he just knows. He's so good at his job that he realized, all right, this is going to continue if we keep him around, so let's send him to the Jets and actually get decent draft capital in return for a guy that wasn't going to play. He wasn't going to play here under that contract. So they trade him away, actually got draft capital in return, and now you see him holding out. And he's reached over $1 million of fines now.
I can't believe it that this situation has descended into this because I thought, and honestly, Howie did not say the holdout situation or what he's doing to the Jets. Howie said that wouldn't be worth it to the Eagles in a year when they get a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
He played it again.
It's unbelievable,
Hassan
man.
Reddick is not a man of his word.
Diana
Period.
Rossini put out a long tweet yesterday, just kind of going through the timeline, but I want to give you the last one that she wrote. A few weeks ago, the Jets called and said they would be willing to rework the current deal if he showed up. From the player's side, that's not what they agreed on before the trade, so he didn't show.
Yep.
Now all trust is broken.
Diana, and I texted her. I tweeted her, and I said I thought her report was a little one-sided as far as the way it was portrayed. The man, flat out, just go to his own words. He's a liar.
He lied.
He's a liar.
It's unbelievable,
flat out
man.
Liar.
And Howie Roseman does it again. I remember asking Adam Schefter this a few weeks ago. Why do teams still make trades with Howie Roseman? This is another freaking prime example. But you know what? I love it.
Yeah, we're glad they do.
Because he's the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, baby. All right, coming up next, we get to this text line because apparently it's buzzing. I love that. We check it next. We discuss more about the players that we over or undervalue in the city of Philadelphia. And we start with Jalen Hurts off of this Dan Orlovsky list where he only appears in 2 categories of top 10 quarterback categories. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Mike Missinelli.
Whether they were lucky to be 10-1 or not, they were 10-1, so they did enough to get by.
37 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. The weather changing allows us to start talking about,
and
clothing.
we're all smiling about it.
Yeah, like we're talking about lightweight hoodies.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the thing is that I do not. That is the hardest item for me to find.
Come on, man.
No, I gotta go look. I don't know. I just have not found lightweight hoodies.
Oh, dude, they're so comfortable, man.
No, they are. They're fantastic, but I have a hard time finding them.
I told
I
John
find heavier hoodies that I don't like as much.
I told John that I have one, but it's a medium, so like I can only wear it at home. I don't want to.
That's the tough thing.
Like I don't want to rock. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be Connor Thomas.
Yeah, you know what? You're not.
You're the only one who's ever said
You're
that.
not Connor
Come on,
Thomas
bro.
walking around in
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's check out the text line.
Spencer Strider.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's ridiculous. We're talking about whether or not we over or undervalue some players in our city, and do we overvalue some players because they are in our city, they play for our teams, and this stems off of a Dan Orlovsky article on ESPN.com where he broke down 7 statistical categories, and I'll dive deeper into this in the 7 o'clock hour, and we'll dive deeper into some other names as well in this city. But of these 7 statistical categories about quarterbacks, they're not statistical categories, traits, quarterback traits. Jalen Hurts is only in the top 10 of 2 of them, and of the 2, one is 4th and one is 8th. So,
like 2 categories.
Yeah, like
Yet his peers have him as a top 13 player in the and a top what no,
top 13 quarterback.
Top 13. No, but his peers had him as a top what player? What number did he come in?
I
on
think
the
he was.
NFL player?
I think he may have been 13.
Yeah, I think he may
it was
have
either
been
14 or 15. He was one ahead of Dak Prescott. I remember.
I mean, it's incredible how the players think one thing, and Dan and we both have a ton of respect for Dan because I think Dan does his homework.
Right.
But I'm shocked by that.
Well, I think some of it also for the player standpoint is, all right, is this guy a winner? And I think that's a big, like, he doesn't have winner as one of those on here, right?
I think that's a nebulous category.
We talked about this yesterday, mechanics. Like, he's not on the top 10 in mechanics. Hunter Pence, I made this joke yesterday, but I'm serious. I would never want my son to replicate Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence is a World Series champion.
Except on payday.
Who played in the major leagues for over 10 years. I should want my son to be Hunter Pence. But I would never teach him to be like Hunter Pence, that swing, the way he throws, any of that kind of stuff. So mechanics, no, Jalen Hurts is not top 10 mechanics, but what does that really mean?
On top of that, too, like, what if he's 11 in all the things that he's not ranked in? Like, the average of where he's at could put him in a significantly better spot than we're assuming.
But if he was 11 in every category, Connor, he's not a top 10 quarterback.
That's not true. What if a guy's 1 in one thing and 30 in everything else?
Like Gardner Minshew is in the top 10 for second reaction ability.
If you're
He's
not
nowhere close to a top 10 quarterback.
If you're not top 10 arm strength, top 10 ball placement, top 10 scrambling ability, you're not a top 10 quarterback. There's no way you end up in the top 10
So you think that
quarterbacks
those categories are all filled by the same guys? Which
No,
they're not.
I don't. But I think you have to check some of those boxes to be a top 10
But you know
quarterback.
what's interesting? All these are like positives. What if he did like the top 10 quarterbacks that throw interceptions and make bad
the fact that he puts
decisions?
Jameis Winston, come on
Right,
down.
yeah,
The fact that he puts ball placement on Josh Allen, and my mind shuts down too fast on things. When I'll see a list or I'll see an evaluation and I see Josh Allen, top 10 ball placement, that's freaking ridiculous.
Right.
He is one of the most reckless throwers in the NFL. And then I start to go, I'm discounting it. All off one little bit of data that I just go, that makes no sense.
And he'd probably explain it if we asked him about it,
Yeah.
right? Like why he has Josh Allen on
And he
there.
does good. He does good work. So I'm not.
And by the way, he does say in his article, it was because he has him at 10 in ball placement. He said, I picked between Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. I went with Allen because he's improved so much in this area. So Jalen Hurts wasn't even first one out. So I don't know.
He threw greater than an interception per start last year. That is not good. That's not good. That's second year in the NFL starter.
Here's the first sentence of, because he explains every category. There's a difference between accuracy and ball placement. Accuracy is the ability to throw the ball to your guy, while ball placement is keeping it away from the defender.
But he doesn't
He
keep
doesn't
it away
keep
from
it
the
away.
fan.
Right,
That doesn't make any
exactly.
sense. That makes me okay.
He shouldn't be 10th. He
That
should be
makes
out of
me
it.
hate it worse. Yes,
All right,
exactly.
What do we have on the text line, Connor?
So we have a lot of people checking in on this overrated, underrated Jalen Hurts conversation. Joe the Cynic leads us off. He says,
Hi, Joe.
I'll immediately settle this topic. People have said Stubbs is the best backup catcher in baseball. Overalls and Team DJ mean more than actual production in this city to some people, I guess.
Yeah, there are people who absolutely say you can't get rid of Garrett Stubbs. It is to me, it's one of the, like, if you did like we did the top 10 mind-numbingly dumb things that people talk about. That Garrett Stubbs, who is not even a Major League Baseball player.
Vibesman. Well, he's a Major League Baseball player.
No.
He's absolutely
He's
a
on
Major
a
League baseball
he's on a Major League roster. He is a quad A player.
If he
at
wasn't
best.
on this one, he'd be on another one.
Yeah, he would be.
I don't believe he's going to be a Major League Baseball player.
We'll see.
I don't.
He's better than Andrew Knapp, who's not in the major leagues. He's still in AAA.
Man, Knapp's in AAA.
Yeah, he stinks.
So does Stubbs.
But look,
He's
so
atrocious.
to Joe's point, or in response to Joe, because there might be somebody tuning in right now going, "Oh my God, is somebody comparing
No,
Jalen
they're
Hurts
not.
and Garrett Stubbs?"
They're not.
No, our question today is whether or not we overvalue or overrate some of the players in this city just because they are players in this city. And the jumping off point is this Jalen Hurts article. Now, I still believe just because Jalen Hurts isn't in the top 10 in 5 of those categories, I still believe he's a top 10 quarterback.
I absolutely think he is, and I think that it was off.
Yes.
I think that it was off. I think there were 2 that he should have been
But
on.
I think he's back half. I think he's 8th. That's kind of what we came.
That's what we came to.
But there are people that hear me, hear you, hear Connor say 8th that are angry. They go, no, he's at least 5. And then there are some people, and we've talked to them, that think he's out of the top 10. Jalen Hurts is an interesting one. So what we're going to do is we'll continue discussing Hurts, but we're also going to throw some other names out there as we continue the show. It's going to be some star players. It's going to be some role players. It's going to be platoon players like Bryson Stott is, and a whole lot more.
no, he should be. Yeah.
Also, I know we've moved on to 2024, but every once in a while, we're reminded about what happened last season with the Eagles. This time from a man we all love and respect, so don't think we're trying to stir something up.
I thought he comes up at 10 o'clock.
Oh, no.
Oh, another guy we love.
This guy's on Monday Night Football.
Okay. Ooh.
His name's Jason Kelce.
Okay, we do love and respect him.
It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Phils face the Fish. I'm Connor Thomas. And this
Salciunas on this Tuesday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic, a beautiful Tuesday morning. We talked about it, we glowed about it, we gushed about it. It was like football weather walking into the cars this morning. You were in the 50s this morning.
It is still 59 at my house.
How north are you? I know.
We're west. We're west.
Okay.
But I mean, we're still 59. I'm looking right now.
That's wild that it's literally a 5-degree difference.
Oh,
it was in the
it's
60s.
But
for
then
me.
again, though, I'll say to you sometimes, like the night you guys played hoops on your Wednesday night, and I sent you guys a picture from.
Oh, you had a monsoon,
and it looked like something out of Twister,
right?
And
yeah,
I said, "Well, no basketball tonight, boys." And you were like,
"We're like,
nope,
what are you talking about? We played for 2 hours."
I think John's
great.
living in a weather experiment.
Yeah, you might be.
I don't know what's going on
Could
over
be
there.
the Cassidines and the weather machine.
It's the chemtrails, man. We have a guy that calls every single day talking about chemtrails. Did you know about this, man?
I did not know.
Oh, you know the chemtrails guy?
Oh, it's.
He calls about it.
There's a guy that calls our line almost every day and starts talking about chemtrails. Look up in the sky. The chemtrails are coming for you. And then he'll give you a bet during football season, and he's pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what
listen-
chems is he on?
Listen, he's not wrong. I saw him in the sky yesterday. They're green and white and red.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That
Yeah,
was
like
pretty
for
cool.
sure.
All for Mike Missinelli, man. The
unbelievable.
Italian
We may
Air
talk
Force
about it later.
came by. All right, so here's what we're talking about today. If you're just tuning in, just getting your car, getting ready for your day, do we overvalue or undervalue some of the players in this city? Now, we focus so heavily on overvaluing. You know my belief on the big man. I believe he is undervalued in this city by a lot, not by all. There are some people that believe Joel Embiid is the greatest player in the history of the NBA. I'm close to that. There are some people that think he stinks, and I think that's ridiculous. So we're getting into that. It's all coming off of Dan Orlovsky's list, where he put together 7 categories that mark a good quarterback in his eyes. Arm strength, duh. Ball placement, yes. Mechanics, I don't really care about as long as you're making the plays, but okay. Decision making, pocket presence, rushing ability, second reaction, second read. Jalen Hurts is in the top 10 of just 2 of them. And it's rushing ability and second reaction. And I think a lot of people will disagree the second reaction one, honestly.
I think people would argue about that one.
Because I think there are people that believe he's a one-read quarterback, which at times last year he definitely was. And it was an issue of his first year. But his second year in the NFL, that was not a problem. And I think that was coaching. I think Shane Steichen helped him get better.
Instinctively, he running the football last year, he looked poor. But I wonder, too, is it that the fact he really was banged up and we just didn't know about it? Because everybody, whether it's Jeremy Fowler, Adam Schefter, or Steve Weish, they all go, well, you know, he was coming off, being injured last year and everything, and we knew nothing about it.
Right.
They all know about it. I guarantee you they know something that we don't.
And it's funny. I mean, you could just tell from the open practice the other day, the videos that people were posting, how explosive he looked. And I get it. Nobody was trying to actually tackle him, but I wasn't watching him try to break tackles. I was just watching him run, his get off, as people like to say, right?
It looks different.
It looks so much different than last year. Last year, he could not beat a defensive tackle on the edge. And I know D tackles these days are not Albert Hainsworth. Like, D tackles are Aaron Donald. Like, they're fast, but like, that was nothing for Jalen Hurts 2 years ago. Last year,
it should never
was
be
difficult.
a real issue for him at full speed.
Right, and last year it was. So of these categories, Jalen Hurts is only in the top 10 for 2 of them. He's not in the top 10 for arm strength, ball placement, mechanics, decision-making, and pocket presence. So are we overrating Jalen Hurts in this city? When you hear something like that, do you ignore something like this? Or do you think he's underrated in the city, which you and I agree he's not underrated?
He is not underrated. No, he is not. In fact, I do think he has been treated with the softest boxing gloves ever as for a quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles who has had sustained starting time.
Right.
I don't even think it's close.
And that could be a good thing.
And by the way, I think it can be a good thing. And I do believe mostly he's earned that.
Yes.
Mostly.
Absolutely. Because
He's
just
earned
2
that.
years ago, he was the second best, I would say best player. 2-week injury changed everything. He was the best player, second best player in the NFL just 2 years ago. Love to get your reaction on this, 610-632-0975. We're going to turn this conversation into some other players as well, but I don't want to ignore the text line. I know it's hot and heavy this morning. So what do we got, Connor? And again, at 7:10, 4 minutes from now, Jason Kelce, a man we all love and respect, talked about last season for the first time. That wasn't his podcast, so it wasn't a prepared sort of statement. He was asked about it, and he gave some responses. So we'll play those for you coming up at 7:10. But what do we have on the text line, Connor?
We have a check-in here from Mike from Phillipsburg who says, I don't know what John and Andrew are talking about. Jalen is definitely underappreciated in this city. People take his leadership and ability to come up big in the biggest moments for granted.
I think that's crazy, especially based off the way last year ended. He did not come up big in the biggest moments when they need him the most. And I've said before to you, that Super Bowl performance has made me a Jalen Hurts fan like forever.
Right.
I am in his camp. That blew me away what he did on Super Bowl Sunday. But if you're telling me that he comes up big at the biggest moments all the time, Buffalo game he did, absolutely.
And all the weeks before the Buffalo game. But
Not all the weeks.
Post-Buffalo.
He kept Miami in a game with a horrible pick
True.
six.
I
he gave up the Jets game in the biggest moment with a pick six to lose the game.
I just think back, like you do with the Super Bowl in 2022, I think about the trap games. Arizona, he won that game by himself. Indianapolis, trap game, he won that game by himself. Houston, the same day as the World Series game. World Series
That
or
game
NLCS?
happened? No, it was World Series.
I was at that game that night, and people
That's
were
right.
watching on their TVs, like on the phone.
Houston game, that was a trap game. He won that game by himself. At the end, by himself. So I don't ignore that stuff, right? I don't undervalue that. But I think it's fair to say, hey, there are some things that he does that there are other quarterbacks that are better at it.
Yes, that's fair.
Right? Like,
and it's not a knock.
It's not.
Not a knock.
And that doesn't mean he's not a top 5 quarterback.
Underrated in this town? No, he's not.
Like, let's just go arm strength, right? Here's the arm strength category. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, correct?
Yes.
We all agree.
Yes.
Okay.
This is just arm strength.
This is just arm strength. Number 2 is Josh Allen. I can make a case that Jalen Hurts is better than Josh Allen.
Not on arm strength.
No, I'm saying.
Right, exactly.
I'm just trying to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
Just because Hurts isn't in the top 10 of this doesn't mean he's not a top 10 quarterback. I can make the case that he's a better quarterback than Josh Allen. Justin Herbert is 3rd. I am firmly believing that Jalen Hurts is better than Justin Herbert.
He's a better quarterback
until
than
Justin Herbert wins something.
Or just develops a level of consistency if you see 2 months. And I believe Jim Harbaugh will get him there. I really do. I really do.
Matthew Stafford is 4th.
He's a better quarterback.
I believe Matthew Stafford still is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, but there's going to be the season where it's done.
Yeah, it's going to fall off a cliff.
I thought it was last year. I was wrong. I thought it was 2 years ago. I was wrong.
Right.
It could be this year.
Gotta be this year.
Yeah, I'm due for
Let's
one.
hope it is by, how about Thanksgiving weekend? Let's hope it is by then.
Aaron Rodgers is 5th on this list. Career-wise, Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback.
Blows him away, but...
I would rather have Jalen Hurts right now because Aaron Rodgers is more than just the football player these days.
I would also.
And he's coming off an Achilles at late 30s.
Well, also a guy who is
40
not...
now, right?
Also a guy who is not focused on his craft, focused on being a celebrity.
He's 40. He turns 41 in December.
Congrats,
He's
Aaron.
focused on being a celebrity.
Will Levis, we don't even have to talk about it.
That's ridiculous.
Baker Mayfield, we don't even have to talk about it. Anthony Richardson, we don't have to talk about it. And then there's Dak and Lamar. Lamar's the better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. 2-time MVP.
Yep.
So, and I can make the case Jalen is better than Dak. So on this list.
No, you're going to be right if you say that.
I feel comfortably saying that 3 quarterbacks are better than Jalen Hurts on the arm strength alone. Mahomes, Stafford, Lamar. And Stafford could end any second now. So I could feel comfortable saying that by the end of this year, Hurts is 3rd on that list.
And by the way, there are categories where Jalen's better than Lamar.
Yes.
I don't think rushing. He is what do you say your cheat code for
Lamar?
your Lamar Jackson is spectacular.
Yeah, he's number 1.
He's absolutely amazing with that. But I'll take decision-making throwing the football with Jalen Hurts every day of the week.
Yeah, and Hurts isn't even in the top 10 for decision-making.
He can't.
But neither is Lamar.
Lamar cannot pass his team back into a game. Jalen can.
Yeah.
2 scores down, Lamar Jackson cannot pass his team, and it's happened in the playoffs over and over again.
All right, give me
Can't do
one more text, and then we'll get to this Jason Kelce audio talking about last season. You can text the show. You can call in at 610-632-0975.
Sam checks in.
Hi, Sam.
And he says, Jalen Hurts is absolutely underrated in this city. We have conversations about how good he really is when we should be talking about Bryce Harper's shortcomings more than we do. Comparing the two, Jalen had a hell of a Super Bowl, and Bryce Harper, Philly's golden boy, has failed in the World Series and NLCS in back-to-back seasons. Jalen is the biggest winner out of him, Bryce, and Embiid, and he's not thought of that way.
Well, go ahead, John.
No. I'm going to disagree completely on, yes, if you take the back end of the World Series in 22 and the back end of the NLCS in 23, yes, Bryce Harper failed. Bryce Harper literally carried the team to those moments and then sort of crapped out.
Right. And it's not one game, it's a series.
He was fantastic in the beginning of the NLCS last year. He was fantastic in the beginning of the World Series the year before. And then started swinging it. They didn't throw him strikes. He started swinging it.
And
I discount that critique of Bryce Harper completely.
Oh, by the way, he's a 2-time MVP. Was on pace at one point this year to be a 3-time MVP, but he's fallen off, and Ohtani has, exploded. He hit his 36th home run last night.
This is arguably the worst. This is arguably the worst stretch of his career.
Yeah, could be.
2 months.
Could be. All right, so Jason Kelce.
Yes.
Was on with our old buddy Rob Maaddi on his podcast for the Associated Press. Rob Maaddi, by the way, will be joining us coming up at 9 o'clock today to talk more about this and, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. But obviously, Rob used to work here at the Fanatic. He covered the Eagles, but he now covers the NFL as a whole for the Associated Press. Rob's doing tremendous things. And he has great.
And he's enjoying Tampa.
Oh, he is for sure.
Living in Florida.
And he has great access, so he was able to speak with Jason Kelce yesterday. And I found this important for a couple of reasons. A, it's Jason Kelce, who everybody in this city loves and respects, right? People can't get enough of him. I don't need to see his face on the Wawa every time I walk in there, but that's okay. Everybody loves and respects Jason Kelce. And the only time he's really talked about last season was on his podcast, but he didn't really dive too deep into it because it was more of the emotional, this is really how my career ended. Do you remember he broke down in tears on his podcast, let alone his retirement speech? Because
that just ended, by the way.
Yeah, it did. It was hard for him to talk about on his podcast because they record on what, Mondays or Tuesdays? It was like 2 or 3 days after the Tampa Bay game.
And he was choked up.
It was raw, right? It was raw emotion. He probably knew that he was done. And I think it was hard to come to terms with the fact that this is really how my career is ending, this historic collapse. So he didn't really dive too deep into it. Now, I will tell you, in his response to Rob Maaddi, did you cut out the Monday Night Football part? And I asked you to. All right. So Jason prefaces everything by saying, I'm going to give you a bit of a buttoned-up response because I have to save it for Monday Night Football. That's where the money's coming in.
Yes, that's where
his
it's going
new
to
job. I don't blame him for doing that. But he does dive a little deep into this. And we read the story from Tim McManus the other day about Sirianni and Hurts. It was just about those two guys. We all know that might be number one as to why the season collapsed, but there had to have been other reasons as to why it collapsed. Jason Kelce explained that a little bit. This first clip that we're going to play for you, and we'll react to it, was the cohesion or lack thereof between coaches and players.
First of all, whenever you lose that many games in a row, it's never just one person or one area. Like, it sounds pretty bad, but the same as when you're winning at a high level. When you're losing at a high level, like, it's every area is struggling. Players, coaches, like talent. Like, I think we had a lot of talent last year, but there were pieces that we were missing. I think the cohesion certainly wasn't there like it was the year before. Obviously, we lost 2 coordinators, which it didn't work out with the replacements. And I think both, Brian, Desai, I think that Matt Patricia, all these guys are great coaches, but for whatever reason, the circumstances of the staffs or the players or whatever, it didn't really come together right.
So, what do you make of that? I just clearly dysfunction.
That somebody, let's say we hired, let's go to Haley and Brendan. Haley and Brendan, who work on our team here, do fantastic jobs.
Brendan, our associate producer. Haley runs our YouTube feed.
And they do things that all of us have done in our career on the way up to where we are. If they were struggling and we had no answers for them, no direction, no way to say, hey, Brendan, like Connor could go over and go, I did this job a couple years ago. Here's how I did it. Here, let me help you with this. Is there anything I can take off your plate just to figure this thing out? If the leader can't help the other people that are supporting, then that's a problem.
Right.
That's a real problem. And the more I hear about last year, the more I think, wow, I move more towards you guys that Nick Sirianni really might be damn lucky to have his.
I'm stunned. I was stunned originally.
And by the way, he held back in this answer.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there might be more.
So to me, there might be more. And wow, it's an indictment.
And look, we've moved on. We've moved on to 2024.
Correct.
Nick Sirianni is the head coach. I heard Mike talking about this yesterday. Him and Bill were, because obviously Bill is Nick Sirianni's best man. Mike and Bill were talking about Sirianni coming back. And Mike was like, I'm not angry that he's back. It is what it is. He's back. I'm just shocked that he's back. And I was angry. I'm now at the point where it's like, all right, he's here. Like, what am I going to do? I'm excited for Kellen Moore. I'm excited for Vic Fangio. Why should I lose focus on the good things and focus on Nick Sirianni? But I was shocked that he came back originally. Even more shocked when the ESPN story came out. Even though it was both Hurts and Sirianni to blame, you don't usually see both guys of a fractured relationship come back. And usually it's not the coach. Usually they keep the high-priced quarterback that they just invested a lot of money in. But Sirianni stayed. This next clip that I'm going to play for you, you said the word indictment?
Yes.
That's literally what I texted you guys yesterday, and it was because of this part right here when Jason Kelce tried to explain what the Eagles tried to do to fix the issues.
On offense, you saw, when we struggled, we went to try and go simpler. On defense, we went the opposite way. We completely overhauled our defensive coordinator and system, and you kind of saw the downsides of both of those happen on offense and defense, where offensively, I think everybody would agree that, we probably went too simple, and that got a little bit predictable, and it could put us in situations that were probably harder to execute in. And I think on defense, I think it created a little bit of hesitancy and guys just not really being able to play fast and aggressive because of they're unsure. And I think that players didn't execute at the level that we did the year before, me included. I think it's always kind of a little bit of everything.
That explains a lot.
They tried simplifying a pretty simple offense to begin with.
I think the 2022 offense was, honestly, I couldn't believe how often it fooled people.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that. They didn't look like the high juiced up crazy offenses.
Right. It was we're better than you.
Try stopping us.
And that's what Sirianni literally said going into last year, that he was going to do that again. And then the defense, if it is true, which I still don't buy it.
Okay.
If it is true that Nick Sirianni made the move to move on from Desai to Matt Patricia,
I do not believe it either.
I still don't believe it. But if that is true, that is more of an indictment on the head coach that his offense, Brian Johnson was the play caller, but Nick Sirianni's offense was more simplified, which led to predictability. And then he made his defense more complex, not just because of the plays they were running. In the middle of the season, he changed defensive coordinators who had probably two different mindsets, who had different terminology, who had different calls, who had guys dropping back into coverage that didn't like it, who had a cornerback that didn't like the guy to begin with, even though he wasn't playing because he was hurt. And I still remember Hassan Reddick being asked, hey, were you guys asked about this before the decision happened? And he said no. Nick Sirianni was then asked about it. He said, no, I'm the head coach. I made the decision. I did not ask my veterans first.
Which is a major faux pas. It's a major faux pas.
Look, he's back. He's the head coach of this football team. I'm moving on. But when Jason Kelce speaks, I want to listen to it. And hearing those clips right there, it's more of an indictment on Sirianni. And it's more of a reason why I am freaking stunned that he is still the head coach of this football team.
Not stunned, but I'm moving more towards you guys.
Wow. All right, coming up next, We continue our initial conversation. I want to get your reaction to that as well. What Jason Kelce had to say. Does it add to your shock that Nick Sirianni is the head coach of this football team? 610-632-0975. Also, CBS did something pretty cool. They're 25 and under defense in the NFL. Players under the age of 25. How many Eagles are on it? If any. We'll let you know. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sirianni set to speak. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni will meet with the media today ahead of their 10:30 a.m. practice. His exact time is reportedly 10:10.
8:30 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. I found something funny. You know how on Twitter they have the suggestions of like who you might want to follow,
Yes.
right? I just saw one that popped up. Now I'm going to give the guy a follow just because of his Twitter handle. Phillies sports but pain.
That's true.
I mean, that's a great Twitter. Like I don't know anything about this guy. I clicked follow.
Philly sports butt pain.
Yep. No, not butt pain.
Phillies.
Oh man.
I didn't understand. I thought it maybe was a proctologist that is a Philly sports fan.
Oh man.
Something like that.
Oh man. This is a family show. All right,
Get one of those bad seats.
Cooper's listening. Oh man.
He'd giggle.
Oh, yes.
He would giggle.
Yes, he farted in the bathtub last night, and
Uh-oh.
it was the funniest thing in the world.
Funniest thing ever.
All right, we'll continue our topic today. Once I once I regroup, but I want to go through something that I found pretty interesting, and I want to kind of turn it into a look ahead as well. CBS put together a list of the 25 all under 25 defensive teams. So I imagine they're going to have an offensive team at some point, but they have the all under 25 first and second team for defensive players. Would you guys like to guess if there is anybody mentioned that's on the Eagles?
Yes.
All right, who would that be?
Jalen Carter.
Ding, ding. Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
So your edge rushers are...
Is he the only one?
Gotta be. Who else would be on there?
Hold the phone.
Maybe not.
Edge rushers, Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson. Can't disagree with that. Your tackles, Ali McNeil from the Lions, and then, of course, Jalen Carter as well. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Cleveland is the linebacker, as well as Nick Bolton from Kansas City. He's nasty. And then your corners are Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, Trent McDuffie from Kansas City. So Kansas City on here a couple of times. We've talked about the youth movement that's gone in Kansas City. That's worked out for them. Clearly winning Super Bowls.
Yeah, I think they did well with that.
It also helps to have Patrick Mahomes. But, hey, look, they have some players defensively that are young and that are playing very well. Your safeties, Kyle Hamilton. We both have a certain feeling about that.
Yeah, it still breaks my heart.
And then Javon Holland from Miami, the other safety.
Just saw Kyle's mother's pictures on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
From her vacation.
That's
She's a sweet lady.
That's cool.
Sweet lady.
So the second team, there is an Eagle.
Okay. It's got.
And you should hit it. You, specifically.
I should hit it?
Yeah.
Oh, I know who it is.
It's a second team on defense.
Come on, Johnny. You're
Under
this guy's
25.
biggest fan.
Yeah.
Oh, it's well, no. I may not be. Because I don't know. I don't think it's deserved if it's who I'm thinking.
All right, say the name.
Is it? I do believe he deserves to be there. Jordan Davis.
Yes, it is Jordan Davis.
Okay, I do believe he deserves to be there. I mean, like he is a deserved player by potential. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a little iffy.
Look,
a little iffy to me.
He's very good for 8 weeks.
He is. No. He's very good longer than that.
10?
Yeah.
All right, 10
it's
weeks.
been
All right,
into
that's still 7 plus.
It's been into December, and again, you're dissing a guy who 2 years in a row, his
him.
first. Well, you are. If you're saying he's good for that.
First, second half of the season,
and
yes.
for his season work, he has been top 8 both years.
That's great.
There are 32 teams. He's been top 25% at his position group. I mean, seriously.
So he's
we can
very,
say,
very, very, very good the first 10 weeks, and then it brings him down his last 8 weeks.
Or you can frame it as, headline writer, he is a top 25, 30% player at his position his first 2 years in the NFL.
Yeah, depending on how you want to spin it. There's no question that he falls off. And it has
there
fallen
is.
off.
And I'm the first one to call. No. I'm the first one to call that, too. And I'm the one saying he's got to prove it to me.
All right.
But he is a top
What's up, mediator?
25, 30%
Let's
player.
remember the conversation we had about our baseball team yesterday and about how you get there matters. Well, if he's top 8 over the season, you can't just look at that as a whole. You have to look at how you get there. So
No,
Andrew's
they
point
do.
about
You guys do
falling
that
off
with
and-
Trey Turner all the time.
Well, okay. So
Trey
is it right
Turner
or is it wrong? That's
Trey
the thing.
Turner in 2 years as a Philly has literally cratered for months at a time.
He's still
and then it's like,
still above 300.
Yeah, but look at his number.
He's at 301.
I had people, thank God we've dropped off Bryce Harper's still an MVP. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Is now as that's plummet. You got to look, the whole body of work matters. But the analysis of the work is fair. And I'm one of the people who does it. I think I say that he can't treat an NFL season like the SEC title game.
Right.
Where the first week in December
11,
after
week
that
12, he's done. Right.
But he is still a top player in his position.
He is.
Top grouping.
It just needs to continue.
Hey, I'm somebody who just questioned whether he deserves to be there.
Right.
He's got to prove it to me.
So I want to bring this up then. So obviously there's no rookies mentioned because they haven't played a second, right, in the NFL yet.
Sure.
Do we believe that at some point we will have one or two more players on the top 25 or all under 25 team? Because I see the two players on Kansas City, and we've been talking about a youth movement since we did shows that weren't even on the air when you and I did a couple of practice runs.
You're talking about, we're doing this show we're doing this topic a year from now or 2 years from now?
2025, 2026.
Okay, Quinyon Mitchell's on that list.
Yeah, Q's going to be on
he's
there.
He's Q now for it. It's good.
Yeah, well, no one else with
Quinyon
Q.
Mitchell's going to be on that list, and I believe that Keely Ringo will have a chance to be on that list.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Though he will be pushing, I'm talking about like a second team type of guy, though he will be pushing the age barrier.
He won't have enough name recognition. Outside of this city, I don't think anyone can tell you who Keely Ringo is, and part of that is because Darius Slay exists.
If they win a Super Bowl.
And he's going to be one of their three corners, right? Top three corners?
You think he's starting? Like, I don't know.
Well, look, I mean, you've always got, I don't know. I mean, you're going to have five defensive.
Somebody's going to get banged up.
Five of the defensive backs. People are going to be backed up. And I'm not drinking the Isaiah Rodgers Kool-Aid because I haven't seen it enough.
Right.
But guys that I respect that have seen it are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, let's look at this, though. Read the names of the corners again. It's Sauce Gardner and who?
Trent McDuffie and Patrick Surtain.
Like, those are two guys that are two of the top corners in football,
No
not just
question.
under 25.
Right.
But they're
Trent
gonna age
McDuffie's
out.
a good
So
player.
Surtain's,
But they're going to age out.
Surtain's
know,
24. So
All of them are going to age out
be
by the
out.
time this would be.
Yes, but I'm just saying, like, the players that they are, that's the player that you're going
They
to
would
have to be.
Okay, it's fair.
Keely Ringo's not ever going to be one of those
he's
guys.
not going to be. Yeah, right. He's
Well, I
not
would
going to be
tell you
Patrick
this.
Surtain.
Now,
You're
here's
right.
what I would tell you, though, is that who are the linebackers?
Nick Bolton from Kansas City, who's a very good linebacker.
He's a fantastic player.
And then Owusu Koromoa from the Cleveland Browns.
I don't know enough of his work.
So
to
he's
be able
24.
to-
He'll be out of this list next
Okay.
year.
And so, I mean, to me, I can see a position group. Right now, you'd say, man, at corner, that's a tough group to. But that doesn't mean that the next crop of corners is going to be to their level. Like, it can be lighter. Like, linebacker has progressively gotten to be a less talented position in the NFL.
That's fair.
Depending on how you look at it. Like
Explain.
the 49ers, they still value
Oh,
linebackers.
they still do.
Ravens still
But
value
overall,
linebackers.
the league does not.
You know, the four teams that were still in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly.
The NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game feature linebackers.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Pretty interesting. Didn't Vic Fangio say it's hard to win without good inside linebacker play?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, Howie. Listen to your defensive coordinator.
and he's
Listen to Eagles fans.
Well, he's also telling your head coach what to do on Thursday night.
Yeah.
But he might not be listening.
He might not be listening. All right. Interesting. Nobody said Cooper DeJean, but
No.
I'm not ready.
Based on what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything yet.
Based on Iowa footage?
Well,
I
Quinyon
mean,
Mitchell, you only saw
Quinyon
him
Mitchell, though.
play half a preseason game.
Quinyon Mitchell, though, to me, first of all, I believe he is going to have a Swiss Army knife type of position. I don't know if Cooper DeJean will ever be a corner in the NFL.
Right. I got you.
I
Fair.
think he's more segmented in the safety route.
I'm not even thinking about it that way. So we always have the training camp darling of the fans, like the
Okay.
Paul Turner Memorial
Yes.
Award. Not that he's dead. I think he's still alive.
I think he's still alive.
But we also have that player that the players can't stop talking about. And if you look at that historically, at least during Nick Sirianni's tenure, they're very right.
And they're all talking about Quinyon Mitchell.
And last year, who was it? Jalen Carter.
And the
Yeah.
year
Baby
before?
Rhino.
Year before? Jordan Davis.
And it's just like more often than not, the players are right. When they start talking about guys, those dudes ball out. And
Because I don't
Quinyon
think they
Mitchell's
want
gotten
to.
love.
Because I don't think they want to talk about young players.
Yeah.
They want to make them They want to make him prove
Like
it.
Avonte Maddox is talking about Quinyon Mitchell in
He
an
really
incredible
is
way,
a
and
lot,
he's taking
yeah.
his job.
Yeah, he is. Avonte Maddox is literally trying to play safety. And look, I give him credit too. We talked about James Bradbury yesterday, the respect we have for him because
Absolutely.
he's moving to safety. He's playing. He's saying all the right things. Avonte Maddox deserves that respect too. And look, I get it. This guy is always hurt. It's a shame. He's a very talented player, and I've seen him be talented at safety. I've seen him be very talented at slot corner. He's just always hurt. But I give that guy respect too. Like you said, this is a veteran in the NFL that's played in a Super Bowl, and he's pointing out. Or no, did he play in the Super Bowl? Or was he hurt? Who knows?
No, I think he played in the Super Bowl.
But he's talking about how Quinyon Mitchell's so good, and to your point, Connor,
He had to have
literally
played. All
taking,
starters
he's literally
played in
taking
the
his
Super Bowl.
job. Yeah,
Here's
that's
the
good
one
point,
thing
yeah.
too with that is that there's certain players, and I've heard people say to me before that he's a guy who may have an eyeball on a coaching career
Okay.
afterwards. So he may be a guy too that looks at things and says, "Hey, I can show that I'm very good at supporting young players and teaching them and everything like that." A lot of respect for the way he's handled this camp.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yep.
good. That's a good thing to see. All right, coming up next, we get more of your text reaction. Still to come on the show today, Jeff McLane every Tuesday. He'll be joining us coming up at 8:10. We have a fun today's headlines. It's always fun. But I'm excited for this one at 8:05. And Rob Maaddi, as we mentioned, spoke with Jason Kelce yesterday. He'll be joining us coming up at 9 o'clock. A lot in store for you still on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now is the time to become a fanatic.
7 on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. As I mentioned, going to the break, Jeff McLane will be joining us coming up at 8:10. We have today's headlines with Connor Thomas at 8:05. But I want to get to some of your text messages here because I know they've been coming in fast, specifically about Jalen Hurts. We do still need to expand this conversation into some of the other players. We've touched on a few, like we touched on,
Sure.
on Bryson Stott. We had a caller or a texter text in about Bryce Harper. But the question today is whether or not we overvalue some of our athletes in the city because they play in the city. And Fandom, you should do that. But when it comes to legitimate conversation, do you sometimes skew more positive because they are our players in our city? And I wonder, we base this off of Dan Orlovsky's list of 7 different ways he evaluates quarterbacks. And Jalen Hurts is only in the top 10 in 2 of these 7 categories.
I am a little surprised at some of the where he has people ranked that to me doesn't make sense as far as just, I think overall great players can't be just good in 1 or 2 categories.
Right, they should be great.
As I spit that
in a lot of them.
They got to be, to me, they have to check, like, if you're a top 10 quarterback, you're checking 4 of those boxes. And I think Jalen checks 2 more that he didn't get credit for.
I don't know. You ever built a player in Madden and have them be like an 80 and everything, and they're like a 99 overall somehow? It's just like, and I know that's a stupid example.
No, I'm talking about real life, but I mean,
in
it's
real life.
You know.
I know it's a stupid example, but that kind of does play, right? If you're good at everything, you're great overall. If you're great at one thing, it doesn't mean that you're great overall.
Well,
But if
John
you're not
said,
top
John
10
said
if you're not top
4
10, you're
different
not
things.
Yeah, I mean, you the 4. Like
Right.
if you show up in 4 of his categories, you're a top 10 quarterback.
Like Patrick,
nobody could tell me a quarterback
Okay, but dude,
that would be top 10
Patrick
and
Mahomes
4.
is in all of them but 1. It's mechanics. I kind of want to take mechanics out of it because I really don't care.
But
Well,
are
also
there-
too, I don't feel qualified to judge it.
I got you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm with you on that one, Johnny. Are there 10 guys though that are in 4 categories?
Here's what I'll do during the break. I'll see how many are in
Okay.
at least
Crunch those
4
numbers.
categories. I'll do that for you. All right, what do we have on the text line, Connor?
First time texter here, no name on this one, but they're from Maryland, so appreciate them checking in.
What
from
up?
the Crab Cake State. For the amount of weapons that Hurts has around him, he is highly overrated. How many quarterbacks would put up the same, if not better, numbers in this system?
Well, that's the hard conversation that I don't like having. It's the Chris Sims thing.
Correct.
Like that texter from Maryland, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you texting in. You agree with Chris Sims. You agree that anybody could step into this offense and be good. And that's why you take away the good stuff that Jalen Hurts has done. Do I believe Patrick Mahomes would be even better than what he is in Kansas City with these weapons? Absolutely.
So do I.
I think a lot of quarterbacks would be better playing in this system. But a guy like Josh Allen, who seems to be the guy we always come back to. Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs, had great backs, and Gabe Davis, I know he's kind of a one-trick pony, but he's a nice weapon to have. He's had good tight ends.
Sure.
He turns the ball over consistently.
Constantly.
And Jalen Hurts, who did that last year, he did turn the ball over a lot last year. Didn't do it 2 years ago. Didn't do it his first season as a starting quarterback. I don't think Jalen Hurts should have that tag on him, that he's turnover happy. Josh Allen very much deserves to have that tag on him, a turnover happy quarterback.
And Jalen Hurts is not. Last year was not a good year for it, but he is not turnover
right.
happy.
So just because
It was an oddity for Jalen Hurts to be so reckless.
I
with the
completely
football.
agree. So just because Josh Allen could step on this field and play with these weapons and probably put up big numbers, it doesn't mean he's not going to still throw interceptions.
Yeah, he would.
He would still throw interceptions. Jalen Hurts, except for last year, doesn't do that. Like, I don't believe Will Levis, who's
Will Levis
sixth
should not be on a list.
in
I
arm
mean,
strength.
Arm strength,
I
yeah,
get
that's
it.
fine. I mean,
But like Will Levis will not step into this offense and be better than Jalen Hurts.
no, he
or
would not.
as good as Jalen Hurts.
No, he would not be.
So
I'm
don't-
fascinated by
I
the
just
Will Levis.
don't like that text. I hear you. I can't deny it.
Can't sign off on it.
But I can't. Or exactly.
No.
Like
No.
now, Matthew Stafford, he's great with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Two very good wide receivers.
I would tell you he's been great most of his career.
Right, I agree with you.
He was throwing for 4,500 yards with crappy Detroit teams.
Right, except for Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, that they could bracket and
Does-
still have to make other people.
Right. Can I say the same thing about Jalen Hurts stepping in a Sean McVay offense with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua?
I think he would.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Sean McVay would do great with Jalen Hurts.
so I get why we look at it that way, why that texter looks at it that way, why Chris Sims looks at it that way, why I'm sure there's other Eagles fans that look at it that way, that you could put any quarterback in this system and they will do well. Why can't I say the same thing about Jalen Hurts in Houston with Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and now Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase?
You could.
Or excuse me, not
Joe
Jamar Chase.
Mixon.
Boy.
Joe Mixon, thank you. That would be nice.
Don't wish any of that on us.
But why can't I say that about Jalen Hurts to Houston? Just because C.J. Stroud was a rookie and went to the playoffs last year and has great arm talent, all that kind of stuff. He has incredible weapons. Why can't I say that Jalen Hurts can't step into Miami today and put up the numbers, if not more, than Tua with the fastest man in the NFL in Tyreek Hill and a guy that's not far behind that in Jalen Waddle? And a running back in Devin Achane. Why can't I say that about Hurts going up?
Don't forget Raheem Mostert.
Right,
Two-headed
exactly.
monster
No,
back
I
there.
absolutely believe that. But I think Brock Purdy here would do wonders with these weapons.
And I think Jalen Hurts would do wonders with
so
San
do I.
Francisco.
Exactly.
I think if you're a good quarterback, you probably play good
about-
in most good offenses.
Like,
How many great quarterbacks in NFL history had bad weapons?
Dude, I've made that
I mean,
point
it's
a million
it's
times.
the, it's, the, it's the use, and you know what?
Yeah.
It's what makes Donovan McNabb have my ultimate respect.
Yeah, because he was doing it with trash except for 1 year of TO.
I mean, seriously.
like,
He
do I
had-
think Jalen Hurts could step into Kansas City and be very, very good? No, I don't. I don't think he'd be very good with just Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, who runs like a madman. I don't. That's what makes Patrick Mahomes the GOAT. Do I believe Jalen Hurts could win a Super Bowl with James White down 28-3? No, I don't. That's why Tom Brady is one of the GOATs. But just because you say that about Jalen Hurts, oh, anybody could play well in this system and with these weapons, I could say the same thing about a lot of teams that have two wide receivers, because in today's NFL, most teams have that nowadays. All right. I feel good.
You should feel a little better.
I feel pretty good
Get
about
off your
that.
chest there.
Because I come off as a guy that thinks less of Jalen Hurts than a lot of people. I feel comfortable saying
I don't
that.
think you do, though. I really don't.
I just don't think he's going to be the quarterback we saw 2 years ago.
That's it. That's it.
And
I
then
do.
people think I'm a hater.
And
because
we're
of
on
it.
different sides of the fence on
Yeah.
that.
All right, coming up next, we reset the show. We have today's headlines with Connor Thomas that I'm very excited about because ghost stories will come into play. And also, Jeff McLane will join us at 8:10. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Eagles start joint practice.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this beautiful Tuesday morning.
It is beautiful.
I hope you have a safe trip into work today. There should be no weather issues for you driving in. It is just gorgeous. Jeff McLane will be joining us coming up at 8:10 to talk about our Philadelphia Eagles following their first preseason game, getting set for preseason week number 2. We got joint practices with the New England Patriots this week. So we'll talk to Jeff at 8:10. We have today's headlines with Connor Thomas coming up at 8:05. But I want to get to some more text messages and some phone calls at 610-632-0975. Players that we over or undervalue in this city. And this stems off of a Dan Orlovsky list where it kind of seems like Jalen Hurts isn't spectacular at many things, but we all agree that he does a lot of things good enough that makes him a top 10 quarterback. And top 10 quarterback is still a pretty good feat. Right, like
Yeah, absolutely.
if I say he's the 8th best quarterback in the NFL, that's not something that should be. Oh, you hater!
And that's the consensus we came to.
Yes, as a show.
That's where he is. That's where he is. He's around 8. I think it was some at 7, some at 8, so it was 7.5. It's awesome.
Right. All right. So let's go to Jarrell in East Oak Lane, who thinks highly of Jalen Hurts. What's up, Jarrell?
Hey, what's going on, man? Listen,
What's up?
I take that list with a grain of salt. What
Okay.
I want to say, and I think that they're basing everything off of last year and not his career and his totality. But I do think that his year this year is actually going to surpass the 2022 year. And the reason I say that is because we show emphasis on our quarterback coach with the exception of Brian Johnson, right? Brian Johnson did not teach Jalen Hurts how to be an NFL quarterback. You know what I mean? What was his background other than I think he coached at Mississippi, whatever college, back in 2014, and then became his his quarterback coach in 2021. So he's not being coached from a quarterback as an NFL coach. And then you have, and then this is what I think that Kellen Moore is going to bring to him, not just the X and O's, but the mindset and how to look at the offenses and break them down. And I think this is why he's going to have a huge season this year, just because at the offensive line, he's going to be changing things around. And then, look, he's going to have more than 30 touchdowns just passing this year.
Oh, jeez. All right.
No. He better have Gerald. He better have 30 touchdowns passing.
For sure.
He should. And guess what? I'm in your boat here. I think you are spitting facts.
And thanks for the call, Jarrell. We appreciate it. Yeah,
I really do. I think
you've been
he's going to
saying
be
this
there
for a while now.
He is the. I'll tell you. He's in the 30. He is in the plus 4,500 yards passing. That is the floor. He is in the plus.
Floor?
That is the floor. I'm ballsy. I'm telling you.
You're like Salciunas with the Phillies having to win 7 games in 6 days.
He is plus. He's in the 30-plus touchdown club. He is in the 4,500-plus thing. You know what? I'm going to tweet it just so it's out there and I make it a fact.
So last year,
Yep.
in a bad year, not just for him, but offensively, the coordinators, all that kind of stuff, Sirianni's offense, was his career high in yards at 3,800. So you think
45
is the floor. So you think he's going to jump?
He's going to, no, I'm telling you.
700 yards?
I am telling you, he will be in the 4,500-yard passing club. He will be in the 30-plus touchdown club.
And you're going to tweet that?
Yep.
So
see, you got it.
Oh, dude, you know what's weird? It's the 7. Because you're Mr. 7. For him to reach 4,500, he has to jump up 700 yards. For him to reach 30 touchdowns, he has to jump 7 touchdowns.
And you realize 700 yards is the only thing that could screw me on. And the only thing, first of all, he should easily have a 4,000-yard passing season.
I agree with you, 4,000. Yeah.
In 22, he was taken out of 3 or 4 fourth quarters.
Right.
So he easily could have. That year should have been a 4,100-yard whatever. In Kellen Moore's offense, 4,500-yard passing club and 30-plus touchdown club. There it is.
Tweet it out.
I am.
Say it with your technology.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I'll say it with technology.
All right, it's time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What up, Connor?
A lot's up, man. We got some important stuff we got to talk about in today's headlines, and it centers around one of the stars of the Los Angeles Dodgers. We don't often get special requests for stories in today's headlines, but we got one last night from Andrew Salciunas.
I did give you a special request, yes.
So, if you're not familiar, when teams go to Milwaukee to play the Brewers, there's a hotel called the Pfister Hotel that is supposedly haunted. Now,
It's not supposedly haunted.
but it's listed as supposedly haunted. I don't know that we could call anything definitively haunted.
It's known as a haunted hotel. That's what they call it. Are you staying at the haunted hotel?
The only haunted hotel I know is the Tower of Terror in Disney World. But either way, there are a lot of
That's
reports.
not what it is anymore, by the way.
I know they changed it. Not the point. Let's get to the ghosts. There are plenty of reports that people have had paranormal experiences in this hotel. Mookie Betts decides, nah, I'm not staying there. He's staying in an Airbnb away from the team for the second straight year because he refuses to stay in the haunted hotel.
What do you mean that's ridiculous? Why is that ridiculous? If he has a fear of something, then
he has a fear of. If you have a fear of snakes, I understand it. If you have a fear of something that is tangible, I get it. A fear of ghosts.
Yeah, but
a lot of people are scared of ghosts.
But here's the deal. Look,
you're scared of ghosts, but they don't pick hotels because of it. They're not afraid to go to a hotel.
Well, no, look, I'm cool with this. You know why? Because it's not like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler used to request specific hotels that if the team, it's been documented, if the team was staying, let's say the Sixers were staying at some hotel in Miami, oh, I don't like that one, I'm going to stay at the other one. And they let him do it. Which is wrong. You shouldn't. But whatever.
Cal Ripken Jr. did that a lot of his whole career. He wouldn't stay at the same hotel.
Okay, so at least this is because he's afraid of ghosts. It's not like Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is not a diva, right? That guy.
No,
I would love to have him on the Phillies.
He is a little crazy.
Okay. For what?
Because he's afraid of ghosts.
Well, he's crazy for being afraid of ghosts?
Okay, how many times has he navigated a ghost in his life?
I've navigated one.
Listen, man.
Come on.
Maybe he doesn't want to navigate ghosts.
Whoa.
I've navigated a ghost.
Tell me about it.
And there goes today's headlines.
No, tell me about it.
So, I've told this story on the air before. I was a preteen, so I was not like 4. I'm not like making something up. I was not later on in my life, where I experienced drugs and alcohol. No, this is like preteen. I was still a nice kid.
Okay, you've set the disclaimer.
Yeah. And it was the middle of the night. I woke up. It was not a dream. I woke up. I am awake. And by my window, the window was to the front and to my right in my bedroom, was this like green silhouette of a guy in like a Civil War uniform. And Mullica Hill was a big spot where the Civil War was fought and all that kind of stuff. They still do Civil War reenactments like 5 times a year. It's kind of annoying because it clouds up Main Street. I saw this guy. He kind of just smiled, went out my window. And I sat there for like 10 minutes. Like, what the hell did I just see? I walked to my parents' room. I'm not 5. I'm preteen. I'm like, Mom, Dad. And they're like, what are you doing? You're not coming to bed, you weirdo. You're an adult. I said, I just saw a ghost. And they're like, go back to bed.
Exactly.
Smart parenting.
And I was like, okay. And I was fine. I wasn't scared. This guy just smiled at me.
Right.
I just kind of went back to my bed and I just laid there the rest of the night.
You weren't scared.
I wasn't scared, but if the guy was like with a knife, a ghostly knife.
It's not like a Halloween movie.
Maybe Mookie Betts had a scary ghost experience.
Like some people, Andrew's experience was scared the daylights out of him. And Mookie Betts might be one of those people. So if he knows, hey, ghosts aren't my thing, and he thinks he might run into a ghost, he's going to an Airbnb. I can't fault him for that.
I'm fascinated.
All right, let me ask him. What if a guy doesn't like heights and they're on the 30th floor of a hotel?
No, you could just request to be on a lower floor.
Oh,
yeah.
Why is he so scared of heights?
He's going to the hotel. He's going to a lower floor.
What difference does that
By the way,
make?
there are people who do that. There are people who don't want to stay up high in hotels.
I know, but okay, so the guy's afraid of ghosts.
Usually it's in a high rise. It's their fear of fire, of a high rise problem.
All right, well, this guy's afraid of ghosts.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. Stop.
All right,
I'm going to pay someone to pretend to haunt your house.
I'm not afraid of ghosts. In fact, I find ghosts I said it to you this morning. I find the idea of ghosts and the concept of ghosts very, very pleasing.
And Connor finds it the opposite.
Ooh.
He thinks it's terrible. Oh, look, people have fears, man.
Here comes the monster. Coming to get you.
There's today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Sorry, Connor.
I know that was a long story.
I like the story though.
I feel for Mookie Betts, man.
You feel for
I feel
Mookie
for
Betts.
him. Look.
Oh my gosh.
Guy's got a pay out of his own pocket, you know? He doesn't have much.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't have much money.
They're paying for it. Promise you.
He's got the Bobby Bonilla deal.
Oh, really? He did one of those deferred money deals.
Oh, he's getting paid till he's 60.
Wow.
It's amazing, man. All right.
Do you think Mookie Betts' least favorite pitch is the Kodai Senga ghost
Maybe.
forkball?
Could be. He might be afraid of it. It's a good
He's
point.
afraid of the ghost pepper?
It may be.
Does that scare him too?
Let's see if Jeff McLane's afraid of ghosts.
He's
Let's head
not
to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward. What's next from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com. Jeff, are you afraid of ghosts?
Jeff would go up to the ghost and just start quizzing him.
I don't think I've ever even thought about that.
Because the Mookie Betts, who's a tremendous outfielder for the Dodgers, they're at a team hotel in Milwaukee that is considered haunted. He is staying in an Airbnb because he's that afraid of ghosts. I got to respect him for it. If he's afraid, go do what you want to do.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, there's a lot of. I think I know what hotel that is.
You have another one?
Is it a Pfister?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and he doesn't want to stay in it because he's afraid of ghosts.
The Phillies typically stay there too.
Ooh.
I wonder if there's ever been a Phillies player that's also opted out of staying in the hotel.
Well, they all look haunted right now, so that could be the case.
The Phillies do look haunted right now. Maybe it'll help them if they stayed there. Jeff, we got preseason action in the books Friday night when they took on the Baltimore Ravens. The offensive stars, majority of them did not play. Obviously, there's the competition at right guard. But I want to focus on the defense first with you. Some of your takeaways from the players that did play defensively. Who stood out to you?
Well, I wrote about Quinyon Mitchell. He's the top draft pick, and clearly had a near interception. Nice play, jumped the ball, jumped a route, and probably should have had the catch. And there were other times I watched him when I rewatched the game where I thought he looked apart. But that's pretty much what we've seen in camp so far. I mean, it's nice to see it up against different guys in different jerseys, and we'll get a better view of that this week up here in New England with the joint practice and then with the preseason game. The other starters didn't play a heck of a lot. I thought Keely Ringo performed well. And I think, I know that Isaiah Rodgers has been up a little more in terms of how many snaps they're playing with the first team. But if they really want Quinyon in the nickel in the slot and nickel, I think Keely's performed better than Rodgers. I'd have him on the outside. We'll see how that plays out. But I thought he played well. He popped defensively. Angelic Hunt has really kind of surprised me because I just thought that this and everything I heard about him was he's very raw. It's going to take a while to develop, and there were some mistakes out there. But he can play. He'll play in this league, and in fact, I thought he popped a little more than Nolan Smith, who's a first rounder, and the Eagles are expecting a lot out of him this season. He did have that one sack. It was a nice rush. I'm not saying he didn't play well, but Hunt pops a little more than me. For me, I'm a lot of times looking at the rookies. Another guy too, I thought it was Trotter. Trotter can play in the NFL. I don't know how good how good he's going to be, but the kid clearly can play at this level.
Jeff, when you look at the approach that Vic Fangio articulates, he has clearly said many times, and I've read in some of your pieces, he believes players should play in the preseason. They need to play. They need to get comfortable. Does he have a different philosophy than his head coach?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of said it as much. I mean, I think I asked him all the way back when we first got him in May about, practice and getting them, practicing more. And then again, he was asked, the preseason. He said, yeah, I'm trying to get Nick to let me play the guys more. Because, look, you can only do so much. You can only simulate so much in a practice. You're not finishing plays, and it's not just about the tackling. There's more to it than that because you're playing at a different speed, and you're playing full out. I'm saying the practices. I don't care what Nick says about certain position groups about the offensive line. I'm watching them; they're not going full out, and the linemen can't go full out because they can't hit the quarterback. So it's not the same. That being said, I understand when the Eagles are coming from when they're resting Jalen Hurts and the other guys, right? I mean, you don't want to see someone get hurt. We've seen it happen before. You don't want to see one of your key players get hurt in a really an otherwise meaningless game. So I see both sides of it. 2022, the Eagles starting offense in Jalen, they played I think 6 plays. He drove into a touchdown. That was it, and then they went all the way to a Super Bowl. So it could be good, it could be bad. I don't stand on it in one way. I just report on it.
So, Jeff, I mean, the offense, Nick Sirianni's reasoning was because of the field. He didn't like the way the field was, the way it felt. And then defensively, he said the field was fine. So which one was it? Is it he didn't want to play the offensive players, but Vic Fangio wanted to play the defensive players?
Well, he said that there's a little more involved in the offense than the defense, obviously with the quarterback. So that maybe affects the field conditions, can affect them a little more than the defense. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, look, all I know is that there were players that were told, earlier that day that they were going to play a series. Now, maybe they were trying to have them prepare that way, and Nick knew all along that the offense wasn't playing. I mean, I always figured that most of the defensive players were going to play a lot, but. Yeah, so I don't know. It might have been the field. I was told it wasn't super wet, but it definitely was. It rained a lot there. Even with the tarp, it's going to still be wet. So I don't know. I don't know why he chose at some point to not play him. I feel like either you're just going to play him or you're not. Make the decision and make it easier on everybody. I guess your players included. And just deciding when you're going to do it. I don't get all the secrecy with it sometimes.
Jeff, tell us a little bit about the logistics of how these joint practices work. How much collaboration there is between the organizations as far as what they want to work on, how the coaches talk to each other about it, and more.
Yeah, I mean, Nick and Gerard Mayo have spoken probably extensively about what drills are going to do. How much are we going to have it with the first, the second, or the third team? Typically, you really don't see the third team practice a lot in these settings. You want to get the top guys their work, and for the Eagles, certainly, they're going to want their first team to play a lot of snaps because my guess is they're not going to play on Thursday, especially if they get a good workout in here, and that'll be it. This will be the most important day for most of the starters ahead of the opener in Brazil. And then in terms of the contact, they'll kind of go over that, how far you want to take it. Usually it's thud, where guys there'll definitely be a fair amount of contact, and you'll just stop short of tackling. You'll hit, but you won't tackle to the ground. And then typically a lot of the coaches, what they do now, just to stop there from being fights, they tell guys, okay, well, I've heard this. I don't know if Nick's done this, but some teams have been hey, if you get in a fight, you're going to have to play in the preseason game, right? To the starters. Which is a pretty good threat, right? A lot of these guys don't want to play in the preseason. Or, they get thrown out of practice. We've seen that before. Last year we saw Jason Kelce hit Zahir Franklin after a 20-yard running start, and that ended practice. I don't know. I don't think Jason there were any repercussions for Jason. But they're trying to avoid that. They don't want to have fights because they're really trying to get work in here.
Speaking of Jeff McLane on the Comcast Business Hotline, speaking of Jason Kelce was on a podcast yesterday and started talking a little bit more about what happened last season. And he talked a lot about the second half of the season, which we clearly know the team struggled. And he talked about how the offense was simplified and the defense was too much almost. They went in opposite directions. When more of these stories come out, Jeff, and obviously you have been reporting it more and more, does part of you still feel a little surprised that Nick Sirianni's back? We moved on. He's the head coach. I'm not asking you should he be the head coach or not. But is there part of you that goes, man, I'm actually surprised he's back?
Well, again, I'm not going to take a stance really on what I think of Nick as a head coach, but I was surprised because I'd heard that they were really considering firing him, right? That's why I was surprised, and I guess to some degree understandable, but at the same time not, because if you look at his record and what he's done, and he's been in the playoffs 3 years, there was enough of an argument for bringing him back. Jason, look, obviously because he says it's going to carry a little more weight, but yeah, I mean we were certainly reporting on that at the time that Patricia was definitely trying to do his stuff and make it more complicated. But like just changing the scheme or trying to in the middle of this, at the end of was going to make it much more difficult for the defensive players, right? I mean, when Matt was handed the job and I was like calling around and like looking more into his scheme, it's like he's never run this scheme before, right? So he's going to have to change, or he's going to have to run someone else's scheme. So that in itself is just obviously a total boggled job by Nick, and also Harry Roseman's involved in these decisions. I'm not taking anything off of him either here. And on the offensive side, yeah, like just they tried to simplify things because for myriad reasons, but in Jalen being one of them, and I think that's what they're doing here with the blitz this offseason. They're kind of taking it a step further here because with Jason not being there to call out protections pre-snap versus the blitz, you get into a more little traditional role here for Jalen, and that he'll be able to kind of be hot a little more. He'll be able to kind of set protections a little more. But what they're doing is they're like that makes it a little more simple for Jalen in terms of the answers. And I think with Jason making the call, sometimes it wasn't that way, and that's why you saw down the stretch last year teams were blitzing the crap out of him, or at least the teams that were blitzing the crap out of him, they couldn't pick him up. Anyway, in terms of Nick, I mean, like I don't think it's any secret that Nick, his seat's getting hotter, right? I mean, there's no denying that heading into the season.
Absolutely. Jeff, listen, man, we appreciate it as always. Jeff. We love your work. You're doing great things on the Inquirer, Inquirer.com. We keep on following your podcast as well, Uncovering the Birds. It's tremendous stuff, man. And we're looking forward to another season talking Eagles with you on this show. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
There he is, Jeff McLane on the Comcast Business Hotline from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com. If you didn't hear it, we'll play those clips for you again coming up next. Jason Kelce did a podcast with Rob Maaddi, who Rob will be joining us at 9 o'clock today. But Jason Kelce talked about what went wrong last season. We are moving on. We have moved on. Nick Sirianni's the head coach of this football team. But it is Jason Kelce. So we're going to hear him out, hear what he had to say, and we'll get back to our topics and your text messages as well. It's Kincade and Salciunas on this beautiful Tuesday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. This beautiful Tuesday morning. I hope your ride into work is lovely.
Safe.
And safe, yes, of course, always.
Safe.
Don't forget, coming up at 10 o'clock, day 2 for the young rook, Mike Missinelli. Day 2.
So he is coming in. He's not like calling out sick.
No, I think he's coming in for
day
day
he's ready
2
to go.
with Bill, who's already here. I did not see Ray. Ray may be here. I just went the opposite direction.
No, Ray's here.
Ray's here. They sounded great. Yesterday was a fun day. And I know we didn't get to it during today's headlines, but amazing that the Italian Air Force came out and welcomed Mike home to the Fanatic yesterday, flying over Philadelphia.
We cut the sound for headlines. I might as well use it.
All for Mike Missinelli.
It was cool. Like, I was driving on 76, and I remember reading about it that it was happening today. I was like, huh? And I see it's first off, these pilots are unreal. How close they are.
They're so close, dude. I'm like they're going to crash.
That unnerves me. I have such respect for it.
Close. And then the colors come out of the Italian flag. It was beautiful. You know, I'm not even Italian, but I still think that's cool. Like, that's still an amazing thing. But yeah, all for Mike Missinelli yesterday.
That's
man.
amazing
unreal.
that Mike arranged that. That's crazy. That was absolutely outstanding.
It's funny. It was literally right after the show started. Like, it was 10. It was like 10:20, 10:30 when it happened.
Would you like to fly a plane?
No.
I would not.
I don't like going.
I would love to.
I don't like going in planes. Period. So I'm not about to fly one.
We have an airfield out in Chester County, right near our house, and so on the weekends you're watching these small planes go up, and most of them amateur type pilots, guys who are just doing it as a hobby. I can't imagine.
I almost went to the Naval Academy, and if I did end up choosing that, I would have tried to be a pilot.
You would have tried to do that?
Yep.
That would be pretty cool. But instead, you're slumming it with us, Con.
Unbelievable.
All right,
I'm in a better place for me.
So I want to replay these Jason Kelce things, and then we'll get to the text line. I want to make this clear again. We're not like playing these to bring up old juju, bad juju, right? I just find it still amazing that as more and more stories come out, I'm just more and more surprised that Sirianni's back.
It's moved me on my position.
Right, these two
like,
clips.
I was 100% bring back Nick Sirianni. Not 99, 100. And I got to tell you, it doesn't move me far, but it does make me go, wow.
All right, so the 8 days.
He was in danger.
The 8 days. The 8th day was when the smoke came out, and it was Sirianni was still alive.
We saw the white. We did not see white smoke.
Yeah,
we saw the black
Pope
smoke.
did not die, right?
Yes.
Sirianni kept his job as the head coach. If the Tim McManus article and the Jason Kelce clips that you heard that we'll play again in a second came out within that 8-day period, would you have changed your opinion?
Yes.
So you would have been with Connor and I.
At that point, that would have, if players had spoken out like that, and I heard how disorganized it was and everything, yes, I would have changed my opinion. That's terrible.
I'll ask you, because I remember you and I talking about this early on in the show, when the show first started 107 shows ago. Jason Kelce spoke glowingly of Nick publicly.
He did.
He once spoke glowingly of Doug Peterson, who was then fired 8 days later.
Well,
right?
Doug Peterson fired himself.
I know.
We know that. He fired himself because he would not make staff changes.
I also don't believe that Jason Kelce is about to badmouth somebody in front of a camera.
I would agree with you.
So, does this make you think that he truly felt the way that he felt about Nick?
This makes me think that I maybe put too much stock in Jason Kelce's personal feelings for Nick Sirianni, not his professional.
Okay. So,
that's where I'm at. And again, I don't mean to read into what Jason said, but I think it's pretty easy to do.
Right. And I'm not sitting here today playing these clips saying, fire him today, promote Kellen Moore now. No, I'm just kind of playing these clips because it's Jason Kelce, a man we all love, a man that we all respect, and a man that's going to be continuously all over your TV once Monday Night Football starts. But here's Jason Kelce. We have two clips for you. Here he is talking about kind of the dysfunction between the players and the coaches last season.
First of all, whenever you lose that many games in a row, it's never just one person or one area. Like it sounds pretty bad, but the same as when you're winning at a high level. When you're losing at a high level, like it's every area is struggling. Players, coaches, like the talent. Like I think we had a lot of talent last year, but there were pieces that we were missing. I think the cohesion certainly wasn't there like it was the year before. Obviously, we lost 2 coordinators, which it didn't work out with the replacements. And I think both, Brian, Desai, I think that Matt Patricia, all these guys are great coaches, but for whatever reason, the circumstances of the staffs or the players or whatever, it didn't really come together right.
He doesn't think they're all great coaches.
No.
So there again, it's like the hyperbole of.
Well, he's not going to be mean. He's not going to badmouth. He's not going to badmouth a dead man. Let's face it. Like Sean Desai and Brian Johnson are no longer coordinators.
No, but they're not great coaches, and they proved that on their own. And the league spoke on both of them.
Or they might be great coaches. Like Brian Johnson might be a great quarterbacks coach.
If they were great?
No, you could be a quarterbacks coach. You can be strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, you could.
You could be mental coach.
Yeah.
You're still a coach.
I still think he's hyperbole there.
Okay.
But again.
He did not say, John, great coordinators.
No, he did not. And so I'm just going to look at it as.
You mean assistant coach?
Yeah, exactly. I guess you are correct.
You could be a life coach.
You could be a life coach.
No. What a great scam that is.
Yeah, right? That's going to be my second career when this plays out.
What a freaking great scam that is. I'm a life coach.
No,
you're a breathing coach.
No, you're
it is such
right.
I'm going to be a life.
So many scams out there.
That is a great scam.
Rhonda Hibbler. Thou shalt not scam.
Yes, love you, Ms. Rhonda. It's a scam. That is the biggest scam. I'm a life coach.
You're so spot on.
Really?
Dude.
Tell me about your life.
And yet people buy into it because they're all cults.
Like I say, hey, I know somebody who went to a marriage counselor. The marriage counselor was divorced twice. And I said, why are you paying somebody who's already been divorced twice to be your marriage counselor?
You learn what not to do, Johnny.
How about You know how you learn something not to do? How about going to somebody who's been married for 25 years successfully or 30 years? That would be a good marriage counselor.
Maybe he wanted to see if
they don't cut and run. They don't cut and run.
Life was, grass was greener on the other side.
Just too much.
Hey, so should I go through it?
Yes. Don't you dare. She's going to run on you.
All right, the other clip that I want to play, and this was the one that was even more of an indictment to me for Nick Sirianni, and it was the second half of the season talking about the offense being more simplified and the defense being more complex. And you saw, by the way, the offense got worse as it got simplified. The defense, not that it was good. Let's not pretend. But the defense got worse when Patricia took over. And to me, this is an indictment on Nick Sirianni because it was his offense that he wanted to make simplified. And it was his decision, even though I don't believe it, to put Matt Patricia as defensive coordinator. Take a listen.
On offense, you saw, when we struggled, we went to try and go simpler. On defense, we went the opposite way. We completely overhauled our defensive coordinator and system, and you kind of saw the downsides of both of those happen on offense and defense, where offensively, I think everybody would agree that, we probably went too simple, and that got a little bit predictable, and it could put us in situations that were probably harder to execute in. And I think on defense, I think it created a little bit of hesitancy and guys just not really being able to play fast and aggressive because of they're unsure. And I think that players didn't execute at the level that we did the year before, me included. I think it's always kind of a little bit of everything.
And to me, that's a pretty big indictment on him.
I like that he put himself in on it too. A lot of self-introspection there. But it does scare me, man.
Well,
it does scare me a little bit as far as just that there were no answers, that there was no adjustment.
But he's not calling the plays anymore offensively.
I'm telling you this, Nick Sirianni better be concerned if he ever does lose his head coaching job.
If he gets another gig.
Because I don't think he'd ever get an offense coordinator job. Because
he can't.
He can't. So I mean, he's going to go from the penthouse to he's going to be Brian Johnson. 2 creams, 1 sugar for Dan Quinn.
This guy can't be an OC if he has given up play calling multiple times and his offense failed. Like his very public offense failed, and they had to bring in a new
public.
Yeah, so no, he wanted it. This better work out for him.
Better work out.
And look, thankfully, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are here, and Nick can focus on the things that he is good with.
Absolutely.
And there are things that he is good at. All right, coming up next, We get your text reactions to all of today's topics. Don't forget Rob Maaddi, who spoke with Jason Kelce. Those two clips that you just heard will be joining us coming up at 9 o'clock. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Amazing. I get a little bit of sleep. I'm in a good mood. And so good mood Andrew sometimes likes to, steer away from just football, even though I'm a football guy.
Sure. You are footballsman.
During the break, one of the great people that work at Beasley, Bill Burns.
Sure, Bill's great.
And Bill was about to fill up his blue water bottle. I've seen that man drinking out of that blue water bottle for a long time now.
And it looks dusty inside.
So I asked him a question. I said, let me ask him. You don't wash that, do you? And he goes, I do every once in a while when it's time to get washed. And you had this look on your face as if there was poop on the bottle.
Yeah, I do. No, I'm telling you flat out. Absolutely. The amount of filth that goes on with water bottles and people lugging them around now, and the amount of times that people leave them and they leave them out. They carry their water bottle everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially like the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the filthiest place on earth. The place where you're going to pick up more fungi than anything. It's terrible.
So this coffee mug that Christy got me around the holidays, because I like a good travel mug.
Absolutely.
This thing, I'd knock you out with this.
No, that looks good. Yeah, it really does look good. And it's very colorful.
I use this every day, Monday through Friday. Whatever coffee's left in it from the previous day, I just rinse it out real quick, pour the next cup of coffee in every morning.
Wait a minute.
And then Friday, I will put it in the dishwasher. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then up until Friday, I just reuse it.
Okay, you do not rinse it out before going home.
No.
The next morning,
it's still in there.
There's loose.
There's residue.
Oh, that's awful.
What's wrong with that?
That's awful.
It's just coffee.
It's just coffee. It's water and grains.
Yeah.
Coffee ground.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Johnny, you would not survive a day in the life of Connor Thomas. If that's going to bother you.
No, you leave food out.
Dude, I leave everything out.
You leave food out on the nightstand, half-eaten food.
Because you always have your iced teas.
Yeah, my iced tea in the morning.
So is it a new cup every day?
Different tumbler every day.
And you wash them?
I don't wash them. I'm told to put it into the sink and Christina washes.
Oh, well, see,
but they get washed.
Are you allowed to say Mr. Mom anymore? Probably not. I do the washing. I do the majority of the washing.
Then you on that task, you are Mr. Mom.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be a thing anymore. It's now Mr. Equality.
Oh, jeez.
And what?
Stop.
You think only women should wash dishes?
No,
is that what you're saying?
Don't be offended by the term Mr. Mom, for God's sake.
Somebody might be offended by it, so I'm trying to be careful here.
Cry me a river.
So I do the washing, but this coffee mug, I wash on Fridays.
Well, then you're Mr. Mister. Then you do that. No, I can't imagine that.
He's Mr. Mold if he doesn't wash it.
I cannot imagine there being residue and then oh, no.
That's fine.
There's worse stuff I put in my body than mold. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, you eat fast food.
That kind of came out weird.
What do we have on the text line there, Connor, as we await Rob Maaddi, who will be joining us coming up at 9 o'clock, who spoke with Jason Kelce yesterday, and we wanted to have him on to talk about it, and it was pretty telling what Jason Kelce said, and it adds to my opinion that he should not have been back here, even though it doesn't matter anymore because he is back here. So the story is over. But every time you hear something new, you go, man, I am shocked this guy kept his job. And even you are starting to sway a little bit.
No, I absolutely am slightly shocked.
And you've been on the side of Sirianni deserves to come back since this show started, since the season ended.
It only makes me, it only moves me a little. Just a little. But it definitely goes, wow. It wasn't as good as I thought it was.
All right, what do we got on the text line, Connor?
VT Ronchekson says, I'm late to the show, but what I'm hearing just validates what myself and Andrew wanted at the end of last year. Sirianni should have been gone if he can't get his players on the same page the way Kelce says.
And look, it might end up being perfect. Him staying, him being the guy that he is, him not having to answer offensive issues. It's Kellen Moore's offense. It is Vic Fangio's defense. Remember, last year, it wasn't even, can Nick fix the defense? It was only offense when it came to Nick Sirianni, because that's his background. Kellen Moore is the head coach of the offense.
Yes, he is.
Right? So, Nick is, we keep on joking about it, but honestly, it's probably true. He was fired without being fired.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's going to be there to make some decisions.
He's overseeing. Look, Jeff McLane said something in the interview today. Vic trying to get Nick to allow him to play his starters more. And I wrote it down. So obviously, from what Jeff McLane observes, knows, and otherwise knows more than us, Vic Fangio had to get approval from Nick Sirianni to play his starters.
Right. And
So that tells me something because
he budged.
look, Jeff knows a hell of a lot more than we do.
Yes.
He's well connected. He had to get approval to do that. So it tells me Kellen Moore didn't want it also.
Yes, that's a good point.
Because Kellen Moore, Vic wouldn't have gotten his way, and then Kellen Moore told, no, Kellen, you don't get your way.
Yeah. I do appreciate Jeff being as passionate as we are about playing in the preseason, though.
I like that, too.
Even though he said, look, I get why the Eagles don't, but let's face it, they're not playing at game speed in practice.
Amen.
And you better, for all you, continuation of the preseason. If they are struggling in the first half against the Packers,
That Friday night will be hell.
and the Packers, who are playing their stars in the preseason, are up 14-3, I better not hear a peep out of any of you. All right. Rob Maaddi joins us to start the 9 o'clock hour. We continue all of our conversation after that. We check more of the text lines. Kincade and Salciunas on a beautiful, fun, busy Tuesday right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Phil's looking to bounce back.
9 a.m. on Kincade Salciunas. Hope you had a nice, safe trip into work today. I hope you have a great day.
It's really blowing by this morning.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 9 o'clock already. It's been a lot of fun today. We've had some good sports conversation. We've had some good fun. We've had a great guest on so far, and we're about to have another great guest on. He does a tremendous job covering the NFL for the Associated Press, and a former tremendous radio host here at 97.5 The Fanatic. Now he's catching some rays down in Florida.
Yeah, I think he's loving life in Florida.
Yeah, I think he's all right. We head to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. From the Associated Press and formerly 97.5 The Fanatic, Rob Maaddi joins us. Rob, good morning, man. What's going on?
What's up, Rob?
What's up, Andrew? What's up, John? Great to talk to you guys. Man.
I imagine the Florida sun is doing you wonders. I imagine you're having fun down there.
It's a little too hot right now. Makes training camp, if you're going to go to Buccaneers practice, a little bit different. But it's the same way up north. You know, I was up there a couple of weeks ago, and it was smoldering hot.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's touch base in like 3 or 4 months, and then we'll talk about how much you hate the heat. Rob, first of all, great job with the pull of Jason Kelce. And I think you still got a lot out of him, even though he was going to try to stay as buttoned up as possible for his ESPN duties. But we played the clips a couple of times. Would love to get your thoughts on what Jason Kelce had to say about the downfall of the Eagles last season.
Yeah, and he knows that he said by week 2, when the Eagles are playing Monday Night Football, he's got to have his answer all ready to go. But I thought he gave me a pretty good explanation, and he said that when things are going wrong and when teams are struggling, there's one of 2 ways to go, right? You either go simple, or you go back to your basics, or you get a little bit more complex and you try to out-scheme and design your way out of it. And the Eagles offensively went simple, and they were too simple. It didn't work. They became predictable. But on the defensive side last year, they went the complete opposite way, right? They brought in a new defensive coordinator, overhauled the system, went really complex, and it kind of complicated things. And that, to me, was it leads to some other questions, right? Like, okay, if the offense went back to basics, went back to simple, do you feel like Nick Sirianni and the staff last year had the ability to out-scheme, out-design, and really go, if they wanted to go complex or was going simple, their fallback option because that's all they could do? Now, if you go back to 2017, remember when Nick Foles steps in, and at some point they had some struggles against the Raiders and the Cowboys or wherever it was, and then even in the Falcons in the playoff game. And Frank Reich and Doug Peterson said, hey, we got to go simple with Nick. We got to get this offense down to the plays that he knows and he performs well. And they went back to the tape from 13 and the 27-2 year, and simple worked then. So I just thought it was a really great perspective from someone who lived it and someone as knowledgeable on the inside as Jason Kelce is, one of the smartest. But like we think of Jason, how tough he is, how macho he is, one of the smartest football players we've seen in Philadelphia.
It is now being portrayed that he's almost, Rob, a spectator to coaching this team because of the 2 coordinators that were brought in here. How uncommon is it for an NFL head coach to not have the heavy hand at least on one side of the ball?
Yeah, John, that's a great question because I wanted to dive into that at some point early in the season. Just take a look around the league and how many coaches are there that don't call offensive plays or defensive plays, because there's been a little bit of an influx of defensive coordinators now as head coaches. It was the trend was offensive minds, and now it's a little bit of defense coming in. And to me, it's one of the more unique scenarios where you have a head coach who is heavily involved now taking a step back and becoming, the term is everyone uses, CEO of the team, whereas Kellen Moore's running the offense, Vic Fangio is running the defense. So it seems like it's a lot more, it's unique, it's different than what has been trending as the norm in the NFL. Can it work? Maybe. And that could start something new in the NFL where you have a coach who's just running the entire team and doing everything from that standpoint, allowing his offense and allowing his defense to filter through the coordinators. if the Eagles have success. It's a big year, clearly. Pressure's on Nick, pressure's on Jalen, pressure's on Howie. They've got the pieces in place, and now they got to go out and get the job done. And if not, I certainly think Nick would be the first one to suffer the consequences from that.
So let me ask you, and we're speaking to Rob Maaddi on the Comcast Business Hotline, AP senior NFL writer. Love that for you, Rob. I'm not asking your opinion on Nick Sirianni. I just want to know, based off of all your years covering the NFL, when you've heard everything that you've heard, what's been reported about Nick Sirianni, the conversation you just had with Jason Kelce, are you shocked that he's still the head coach of this football team?
Man, that's a great question, Andrew, because if I got to take opinion, opinion is such a big part of it. And I
don't want to put you in a spot where you think, oh, he stinks, he shouldn't be the head coach. I'm just saying, when you know how things work in the NFL, Bloody Monday or 8 days, however long it takes.
No, the shocker for me last year was that Mike McCarthy stayed in place. That was the shocker.
Okay.
The big stunner was like, how in the world is Jerry Jones going to take this after they win the division and another first-round exit? And as disgusting as it was for the Cowboys losing that game to the Packers, like that blew me away. I would have been surprised if giving Nick's track record of success, I know it ended ugly, but for a guy to come in there and take over a team that was as bad as they were in 2020 and take them to the playoffs in his first year and in the Super Bowl and come within a field goal of winning that one and then a 10-1 start, that would have shocked me. That would have surprised me. And I think that's the sentiment around the league, too. Most people that I spoke to around the league were like, they're not really thinking about making a coaching change. Like, who would want to come in there knowing that you can win, go to the playoffs, and even then the leash is that short? So that was kind of the perception for most of the people that I spoke to regarding the Eagles. But that said, given the way things played out, and what was it, 2 weeks after the end of the season before the news conference, like he was hanging, right? He was in balance, and now we know there were some questions, and there was a little bit of, is Belichick maybe the guy that we might want to consider? That kind of like internal talk. Now you know going into this season, it's a short leash, and for Nick, like, I don't foresee any scenario where the Eagles make a change in season. Like if you start 2-5 somehow, or 1-4, I think he plays out the year and allow him to get to the end. But they got to have some success this year, and they're in a division that they should win. The Eagles should come out of the NFC East. It's not good enough anymore, right? That's not what we look at as success in a season. It's getting to a Super Bowl and having that parade. But if they don't come out of the NFC East, they're certainly I don't think Nick's going to be able to survive that.
Rob, do you believe that the marriage between Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore is a really good idea and a good one? And what do you think the kind of ceiling would be on in a Kellen Moore offense for Jalen Hurts?
I want to see the way Kellen Moore's offensive system, with the quarterback not lining up or being more under center and things like that Jalen hasn't done as much, and then running. How's he going to incorporate Jalen in that? And it would be nice to see in a preseason game for a handful of snaps. We saw, I think it was 15 to 18 starting quarterbacks around the league play. So I'd like to see a little bit of that. Not that you would get more than a vanilla offense. You're not going to see much. And obviously, whoever's at the Eagles-Patriots joint practices are going to see a little bit more. It's a big year for Jalen, as much as I say for Nick. It's a big year for Jalen. Kellen Moore's had some success in this league, and he's had some mediocrity, too, along the way. But it's a run-first type of offensive scheme. They got Saquon Barkley. They got a ton of talent around Jalen, and he's got to bounce back to 2 years ago. So I like Kellen. I like some of the innovation that he brings. I like some of the ability to mix things up and to do what the Eagles haven't done in years, and that's pre-snap motion and some of those things along the way that we've always wanted Nick to do. But it sets Jalen up for some success. He's got all the talent around him, and if he doesn't bounce back, then there's going to be more question marks about Jalen. Now, At this time last year, guys, the big question was, like, I would go anywhere I would be. Is Jalen going to have a comeback to earth year? And I was taken aback by it. I was like, why would people question a guy coming off an MVP runner-up, a tremendous performance in the Super Bowl? These questions weren't there for Joe Burrow. These questions weren't there for Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. Like, when Jalen Hurts, everything you saw to that point last year was he was on the rise. And he was getting better. Why would you ask if he's going to get worse? And then he did. He did take a step back. So I was totally wrong. I thought he was going to just continue to climb that ladder, and he took a step back. The interceptions more than doubled. The passer rating went down. The completion percentage slightly down, and some of the inability and to read some defenses at times. So this is a season where Jalen's got to prove, like, hey, the guy you saw in 22 who earned that $50 million contract is the quarterback that I can be. And I like the relationship with Kellen Moore. I think that his offense can get the most out of Jalen. But what I love the most, not only is his talent, is the talent around him. The Eagles have put him in a position to succeed, and it's time to go out there and get the job done.
All right, last thing before we let you go, Rob, we appreciate your time. Earlier in this conversation, you mentioned, all the whispers about Bill Belichick. So I want to read a tweet that was authored by a man named Rob Maaddi. Have you heard of him? The tweet.
I've heard conflicting things about
the tweet
guy.
yesterday read as follows. Bill Belichick has twice mentioned on Pat McAfee's show how he had good working relationships with the Eagles when organizing joint practices. Period. You just basically said something that Bill Belichick mentioned on a show. My question for you, Rob, is why is the tweet relevant?
I thought it was interesting. One, like, Bill is so good on TV. I don't know if you guys got a chance.
Yeah, he surprises me. He surprises me how good he is.
And we saw glimpses of it, I think, when he did the NFL 100 a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
When he's talking about a topic that he likes to talk about, he's got a very knowledgeable, obviously, and he's got a lot to say. And then yesterday, I just turned it on. I'm like, oh, there's Bill Belichick. I'll keep it on. He's smiling. He's laughing. He's joking. And I just found it interesting how, like, they were the conversation was about joint practices, and the Eagles and Patriots have had these in the past. But he just kind of mentioned in there how he's always, like, I can go back through transcripts of Bill Belichick praising Howie Roseman. He's got this unique relationship with the Eagles and the front office, and a mutual admiration for Howie and Jeffrey Lurie. And then when he's pointing it out, and then we know about a little bit of the Eagles' overtures, right, in the offseason, I thought it was a little interesting. Like, hey, Belichick already got this great working relationship. They like him. How could you not? If anything were to happen, he's got to be on the short list of first guys to call. And listen, I like Nick Sirianni. I want to see him go out there and just have a great season and have all the success in the world. But if the Eagles were going to move in a different direction, you got to make a phone call to Bill Belichick, and he certainly would welcome it.
Rob, you're the man. We appreciate it. Keep on getting those nice rays down there in sunny Florida, even though it is probably smoldering right now. It's probably very hot, and I apologize for that. But I'm not going to weep for you when it's like 75 degrees in about 2 months and we're freezing up here.
You guys are the best. Great talking to you.
Thank you, buddy.
There he is, Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, senior NFL writer for the Associated Press.
That just means
really
he got
cool.
more money.
Yeah.
It didn't change his job, dude. It just means he gets more money.
Well, it changed a little bit because he was the Eagles reporter for the Associated Press.
Exactly.
Now he's league-wide, man.
Plus his taxes are
that
so
changes
much
a little
better.
bit. So the Bill Belichick story is not going to go away.
I can't believe it.
It's never going to go away. Unless the Eagles, if the Eagles go 13-4 and
no, it goes away.
It goes away.
It goes away. If they win the NFC East, it goes away. If they win the division, it goes away.
But if they lose,
oh, that's different. Yeah, but
know.
I still cannot get over the fascination of wanting a 73-year-old to be your head football coach who has not had success as a head coach without Tom Brady.
Well, now
he has had failure without Tom Brady. Failure.
Right. And, of course, the big question on Bill Belichick's resume is the ability to draft players. And, obviously, the last couple of years of his tenure in New England, it was horrible. But
I can tell you in Atlanta, He interviewed in Atlanta. Looked like he might get that job.
Oh, yeah, it looked like.
And then Atlanta pulled the rug out from under him.
He had a second interview.
Oh, no, he didn't. He went to Arthur Blank's yacht for it. Very connected sources have shared with me that he just was not going to accept, not a lot of control.
Right, so that's why
he wanted control of stuff.
I find it really interesting that Rob is talking so glowingly about Belichick's relationship with Howie. I don't
Well, maybe
think
he trusts Howie.
Maybe.
And he didn't. Terry Fontenot, I think, is the GM he would have to work with down in Atlanta, and supposedly wasn't very comfortable with it.
Well, I don't blame him. They
trust
signed Kirk Cousins and then drafted Michael Penix in the first round.
So,
I don't really blame him for not trusting him.
Wasn't a big fan. I would tell you, though, is that Bill Belichick, as a coach, as a defensive coordinator, amazing. As a head coach, he stumbled into Brady. Stumbled into it. He did not plan on having Brady. It wasn't some great foresight of his part that Brady's going to be the next generation guy. And without him, he has been an abysmal failure as a head coach.
He was good with Garoppolo that one year, and he had some good times with Jacoby.
Good with Matt Castle that one time.
A fill-in guy with an already championship roster.
A championship roster that he built.
And the Eagles were teams that, remember when McNabb went down and things like that, championship rosters can sustain over a period of time.
The AJ Feely days
but they're
and Jeff
not,
Garcia.
They didn't win a game with Matt Castle. Didn't even go to the playoffs with Matt Castle.
I'll tell you this.
They don't think they even made the playoffs.
Let's look at it this way. Let's take the Patriots out of it. Let's take Bill Belichick out of it. Let's take this into a different scenario.
All right.
Let's say there was a team that won 6 Super Bowls, and they had an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator that was part of that. They're not the head coach. You can't say
I got you.
that. But if that guy was available for the Eagles to hire as a head coach, I would take him in a heartbeat because they've been around winning.
And those guys would be Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia.
Now,
then here's what I'm going to say to you.
I said take the Patriots out of it.
And here's what I'm going to say to you. Buddy Ryan. You would have hired Buddy Ryan as a head coach, and Buddy Ryan was an abysmal failure. He had all the talent in the world, and he was terrible.
But to Connor's point, you don't know that until they become
but I
the head coach.
I do not want to go through that. Give me a guy who can be.
This is like your Maddox Schmaltz-Glavin thing, where it's like great pitchers. You've seen a team try it and it didn't work out. Like, I'm never going to not take the option of a 6-time Super Bowl champion head coach. Like, I don't know how you could realistically say no to that.
Well, the age thing is a legit.
You know what you'd go?
He doesn't have to run the 40.
You know, Connor, the NFL's done this before, has done this with guys who have won 3 Super Bowls or 3 championships. They've done it back in the olden days before I was born with Vince Lombardi.
Yeah.
They did it with Joe Gibbs, bringing back Joe Gibbs. It does not work.
He's won double.
It does not work.
No, because he's set in his ways.
They're going to do things the old way. His Patriots teams were atrocious.
Unless he. But here's the thing. Again, I find it curious how Rob talks about how great of a relationship he has with Howie Roseman.
But he may have a great relationship with Howie Roseman. They may wouldn't you, if you were in the NFL and you were working in the NFL and you're Howie Roseman and you had a chance to have a great relationship with Bill Belichick, wouldn't you want to? He's one of the Mount Rushmore coaches. He is one of the greatest of all time as a head coach of winning. I think you'd want to have that. That doesn't mean you want to hire him at 73.
Right.
No. No.
All right, you don't want to, but
I do
clearly
not.
There's been, Jeremy Fowler tweeted it out, or didn't he write a story on it? Literally,
no, they
again?
did. No, they did.
No, I mean,
absolutely.
again,
yes.
a week or two ago.
No, he just talked about it.
Yeah.
Is that there is one guy that he's sort of stalking the job. That's the job he wants. I absolutely will tell you. I'm telling you right now, I would want no parts of it.
Well, good news is if this goes the plan, we don't have to ever find out.
They go
And by the way, I do not think there's any way we will be having that conversation.
I don't think so either. I think it will end this season. But if it doesn't, get ready, Johnny.
I hope so.
Get ready, because August 13th, we'll be talking about the training camps led by Bill Belichick.
Oh, my gosh.
Of 2025. All right, coming up next, we're going to get back to our main topic today, the players that we overvalue, undervalue. I want to throw other names at you. All right, and we'll discuss them. And it's going to be all the teams, whether or not we overvalue them or undervalue them because they play in Philadelphia. And obviously, majority of them we overvalue. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. 9:29 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. On this beautiful Tuesday morning, we jumped off on today's jumping off point, the topic. I don't know why I said we jumped off. Maybe because of what we were just talking about during the break.
We're talking about parasailing.
Parasailing, yes. We were talking about Jalen Hurts and whether or not we overrate him in this city. And the reason being, not because we feel a certain type of way. There was an article done by Dan Orlovsky. And Dan Orlovsky had 7 different quarterback attributes. And he ranked the top 10 quarterbacks for each attribute. Arm strength, ball placement, mechanics, decision-making, pocket presence, rushing ability, and second reaction / second read. Jalen Hurts was in the top 10 for 2 of them. Rushing ability, he was 4th. Second reaction, he was 8th. The other ones, he didn't even make the top 10. You asked me earlier, Connor, how many guys are in the top 10 multiple times. I didn't finish it, but Mahomes, out of the 7, was in 6 of them. The one he was not in is mechanics, and I don't even value mechanics.
Yeah, right.
So for me, he's 6 for 6.
Okay.
I value mechanics because I can't even change my oil. So, I mean, I'm going to look. I'm valuing mechanics.
It's good work by you.
Monty's took care of me last week.
Josh Allen, out of the 7, is in 5 of them.
Okay.
Matt Stafford, out of the 7, is in 5 of them. Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers are both in 3 of them. After that, there's not many guys that are consistently in the list that looks like, oh, actually, C.J. Stroud, as I quickly scroll through, is in 4 of them.
That's what I'm saying, though. So you've listed, like 6 or 7 guys there. Like, to be a top 10 quarterback, you don't have to be in these consistently. Like, nobody's the perfect guy.
Yeah, no,
so.
I agree. I still believe he's a top 10 quarterback, even though he's only in this twice.
I think Orlovsky would probably say he is, too, or he's close.
Well, I'm going to try to get him on.
Hopefully we can do it.
Let me see if he had the response. Not yet.
But we're trying
he
to
did respond, finally. So we're going to try to get him on later on this week, because I would love, I think this is fascinating, because it's a different spin on the list.
I think it is so well sourced. You can disagree with Dan when you read some of the individual evaluations.
Like Josh Allen ball placement probably shouldn't be in the top 10.
But you absolutely can say, man, that is a well-sourced piece. He didn't throw that together on the dock in Seattle last week.
Right.
That has been something he's been researching.
Right. So it led to the conversation about whether or not we overrate Jalen Hurts, because he's only in 2 of these top 10s, and clearly he's not thought of as highly, but he might be an all-around better quarterback than some of these guys, like Geno Smith. Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Geno Smith. Geno Smith is on this list twice, just like Jalen Hurts. They're both on a list twice.
And Geno Smith is not in the conversation with Jalen Hurts.
No.
In my opinion.
No, Gardner Minshew
by the way, I think he's pretty good, though. I think he's pretty good. I take Geno Smith over Gardner Minshew.
I agree. And I still don't think the Seattle Seahawks will win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith as the starting quarterback. They have great weapons. He just has to put the ball in their hands, but I don't think he's ever going to win. But, so be it. So let's check the text line, because I know people have still been chiming in on this conversation. Then I'm going to throw some other names at you, whether or not we overrate them. Bryson Stott was a guy that we talked about earlier today that we clearly overrate. Doesn't mean he's going to stink. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a good ball player in his career. But I think people almost let a lot of his issues this season slide when I've stated for 2 weeks now he is a platoon player for the rest of the season unless he goes on some hot streak, which I don't see happening at this point now that we're midway through August. What do we have on the text line?
Shane in Mulca Hill checks in, and he's saying something similar to another text we got earlier. He says, Hurts is the only athlete in the city who's played great on the biggest stage. Embiid has not, and neither has Harper, really. People forget so easily how good Jalen was in the Super Bowl.
I wonder if I know that Shane. I know Shane from Mulca Hill.
If so, tell him he's incorrect.
I mean, I've seen Bryce Harper play at the biggest stage.
Right.
I mean, Bedlam at the Bank was a huge stage. Don't tell me that it wasn't. Well, because it wasn't the World Series, it wasn't the biggest stage. You know what I mean? That's a big stage. And it was honestly one of the biggest moments of my sports life as a fan.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to downplay Jalen Hurts' 2022 postseason at all, but let's not treat it like he had a Nick Foles run.
Right, his best, the Super Bowl was electric.
The Super Bowl was electric, but also 2 38-7 wins.
Yeah, and he made the right plays.
2 blowouts.
He made the right plays, but we didn't come out of that and say, like when the NFC Championship game ended, we're like, Nick Foles has descended from the heavens, is not of this earth. We cannot comprehend what he's doing right now. Part of that being the backup thing, but part of that's the performance.
Right.
This was more, when Hurts and the 22 Eagles did it, it was this team is a juggernaut.
I get what you're saying.
And I'm not trying to take anything away from Hurts.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, though. I looked at that. I personally, I looked at what Jalen Hurts did in the playoff
No,
games
but I
and
know
then
what
the
Connor
Super Bowl.
means. Like the flea flicker that Nick Foles. Like
Yeah,
that was.
like, it was
it was-
undeniable.
look,
Nick Foles was the
right.
reason.
It was absolutely
and Patrick Robinson.
amazing.
Pick six.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Don't take away the pick six. They're
But
down
I mean,
14.
with the intimidation Nick Foles made him throw that.
I think of going out in that Giant game on that Saturday night, and I'm sitting next to DeCecco in the press box with Jeff Kerr and them. We're at the very first pass play, going like 50 yards
Yeah, it was
to
a dot.
Devontae Smith,
Yep.
like a perfect one-on-one, and it was just perfectly thrown, perfectly executed. They had the one that when they went to the Super Bowl, the catch against San Francisco that wasn't a catch. That
Devontae, yeah.
Devontae sold. It was it was you couldn't.
Now-
have,
Yeah,
you
he sold
can't
it
throw the
he
ball.
sold it so well that he told everybody to hurry up and get to the line
Exactly.
so that they couldn't challenge
Exactly.
The more you bring up about it, the more I think I may be overstating what I just said. I do think it's true, but maybe not as.
it. No, it's look.
Jalen had two dominant playoff games and then had a Super Bowl where he was clearly the best quarterback on the field. He fumbled on something I don't know that is. I don't
Can't even
know.
explain it.
I've never seen his own leg
Right.
cause a fumble ever.
Right, you can't explain
It's
it.
just the
And
craziest
again, the
thing.
point isn't to take away. It's just
No, it's
comparing
just
him
great.
and Harper. Like, they both had their moments, and I don't know that it's fair to say, like, comparing Bryce Harper's postseason to Jalen Hurts is that Harper hasn't done anything on that level.
No, Harper's had plenty of big moments.
All right, I'm going to throw you some names, whether or not. And look, I'm not going to bring up Bryce Harper's name because,
Right, please don't.
Bryce Harper has been worth every single penny that you've gotten. So
He has
I'm
absolutely.
going to throw you some names. Do we overvalue them, undervalue them, or are they, valued at the right spot?
Okay.
And I'm going to start with Connor's boy. And the question is, Aaron Nola, where does he stand on that? Overvalue, undervalue, or is he valued just right?
He's overvalued.
I think he's undervalued.
No, he's.
I think he's valued just right.
Oh my gosh, we're the three freaking Bears.
Because here's the deal. You can't undervalue the innings. He pitches, and he's there every outing.
Well,
But when he's giving up 3 earned runs every single he's not Zach Wheeler. He's not close to Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, but is he a top 2 arm on a team you can win a World Series with?
no, not right now. he's
Okay,
not.
then the Phillies are screwed.
No, right
Like,
now
what do you
he's
want me
not.
to say?
No, because I believe that you could have, if Suarez is pitching well, you can, and Sanchez and Suarez have been better than Aaron Nola.
Yeah, but in
This season.
we've had this conversation with
Right.
him being like the opening day starter thing. I know they switched it to Wheeler, but like Nola's
Finally.
going to be the second arm in the postseason.
Yeah, he's going to.
Oh, I know, because that's just what Rob's going to do. It's going to be anointed on reputation.
that's what's
not
earned.
on. No,
In the playoffs,
You're
he
earned
has
by.
earned
It should
it.
be earned by performance. It should be earned by your performance. He has not performed. He has been the 4th best starter on
Yeah,
this team.
but we had this exact same conversation last year. Michael Lorenzen was the game 2 starter.
No, but he was not.
Right?
But he had not earned it over the course of a season. Lorenzen had like 7-8 starts.
I know.
I mean, Aaron Nola has pitched this year. He's been their 4th best starter.
Yes, this season, yes.
So this year, when they trot him out there in game 2, it is going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's not going to be based on actual what he deserves this year.
And he's going to go out there and shove, and we're going to be in the same place we have in the past 2 years.
He may early, and then he may crap out late like he did the last 2 years also. We bring up NLCS World Series. He craps out. He pitched great early, and I will respect the hell out of those. Those Braves series, fantastic.
And game
Absolutely
2
fantastic.
of the NLCS.
And then it's a crap out from that point on. You don't know what you're going to get. He is the random box of chocolate.
All right. Darius Slay. Over, under, or just right?
Just right.
I say under.
I want to say just right as well.
I think he's undervalued in this city.
Okay, and then I'm not gonna have a problem with it.
I think the biggest thing is the turnovers. I would love to see more, but I think
I'm a fan. So I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So
I think if he's undervalued, it's because of his position, not because of him. I think it's hard to evaluate cornerback play because you don't hear their name, and that's when they're playing well. It's the same thing kind of as offensive linemen. Like, when you don't hear about them is when they're playing well, which makes it harder to tangibly say this guy's great.
All right. I wish we had more time for this.
Oh, here we go.
Where do you think I'm going?
Oh, I know where you're going.
No.
The big man.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Because he's undervalued. And there's nobody can.
Okay.
Oh, you want to say nobody?
Nobody can sway my
gosh.
opinion on that.
Why know that?
Nick Castellanos, is he overvalued, undervalued, or just right? I don't think anybody I don't
Just
think anybody.
right.
I don't think
Nobody
anybody
overvalues
overrates.
him.
I don't think anybody overrates.
He's just right.
But is he just right or is he undervalued?
He's just right.
I would say he's undervalued.
I do too.
Oh my gosh,
John.
this is you know what? This is highly interesting. I'm sad.
I wish
sad
we had more
shaved this for
time.
too late because I gotta. I can't believe. No.
But it's funny. Again.
Okay, do this one.
No,
then.
you're right. He's overpaid.
Okay,
and
do
that
this
is
one.
another big thing.
Do this one quickly then. Trey Turner,
Properly valued.
overvalued. He disappears for months at a time.
If we had this conversation
years.
a month ago,
you would have said valued just right.
yeah.
Okay, then I would have. It's just that
'Cause
another absolute crater of a great players don't crater like this.
That's not true.
And it's 2 years in a row.
Players
2 years
do
in a row.
crater.
Great players do not crater.
He's still
like
hitting
this 2 years in a row.
301. So like his crater went down. Like
He was
his
hitting 348
Right,
at one
his-
point, John.
his crater
and
still
he's
has him as
the
a
worst defensive shortstop in the game.
He's not.
For the second consecutive year.
Right.
Yes, he is. No, he is. He is the worst shortstop in the game 2 years in a row.
I will also say this, and I don't know.
Not
if
an
this
opinion.
I don't know if this is fair or not. I would not have. I wasn't paying him for his glove. I was paying
Oh
for
my gosh.
Also true.
I was paying for
Because
what he provided to this
We got
lineup.
like 9 years left, and he has to be removed from shortstop.
Yeah, move to second
ASAP.
base. And move to second base.
Yes,
And then he's a
absolutely.
300 hitter still.
For what? The guy hitting 150?
Right. No,
Like,
he's gotta be.
Listen,
Nah,
Trey
it-
Turner's fine. He's
start-
the least of
start
this team's
giving Aiden
worries.
Miller reps
the
at short
least
again.
of their worries.
Trey Turner is the least of this team's worries. If you think otherwise, you don't know what you're watching.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Interesting.
I agree.
You don't even think he's the worst defensive shortstop. I don't even know what you're doing there.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that guy who is an all MLB level talent at his best is the worst defensive shortstop in the game. There are 30 teams out there, and I guarantee you I can find you a worse defensive shortstop than Trey Turner.
He led it last year as the worst in the league.
In what?
And he's having it. He is a butcher.
No, a butcher is not a
How about
stat,
this?
John.
How about
Give me
this?
a number
How
that
about
tells me he's
errors?
the worst shortstop.
How about errors?
Okay. Did he have more opportunities?
Oh, jeez. No, he
That's
does
how
not-
the game works.
No, Connor, he does not get to more balls than the average shortstop. He gets to as many balls as the average shortstop. He is not some guy with this incredible range that we go, oh my gosh, look where he got to that ball.
No, you're right.
That's
It's not like
exactly
he's fast
not
or
him.
anything.
Come on now. By the way,
Come on now.
By the
Don't
way,
come on now.
By the way, if you value innings, you better value tonight's starting pitcher, Taijuan Walker.
No,
Yes.
He gave you 173 last year.
Yeah, with an ERA of 15.
Gave you 170.
You're not
No,
allowed
he
to
led
cheer
the team
tomorrow
in
when he
wins.
wins.
173 innings, and he got you 15 wins.
Yeah,
You gotta value
come on,
innings.
enough with the win stat. The win stat. Jacob
All right,
DeGrom
no, you
won
wanted
a
innings.
Cy Young
You
with
wanted
a sub
innings.
500 record.
You wanted innings. 173.
All right. This is like a Royal Rumble. We got a break.
Key 3 coming up next and a whole lot more. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5
tag
The
me.
Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson,
I'm not saying he can't work his way back to that level. I do think Bryce Harper is Superman, but it's just, to me, it's too stark, the difference in how we'll criticize some stars and some others.
Well, I hate to do this both of you. John,
What's that?
Actually, Connor's right. He's not the worst shortstop in
Over the
Major
last
League
2 years?
Baseball. No, I'm looking at this season
When
specifically.
they add these to the last year.
Oh, well, he's only the second worst shortstop.
Yeah,
In
De La Cruz, right?
No. I'm going to
I
give
thought
you
it was De La Cruz.
I'm going to give you a specific category. All right, this is not fielding percentage because here's the deal.
Okay, go on.
What, you want him to be the worst just to prove your point?
No, use my point. My point was errors. I didn't say anything about some VORP stat you're going to give me or whatever it is. I said the statement I made is he's the worst.
Well, then errors, you're not even close.
2 years, he's terrible. They said last year and this year.
Okay, I'm on 2024 right now. 2024.
Where's he at, like 13 this year?
He's got 12, which is fifth most in Major League Baseball at shortstop.
And he missed a proportion of time.
He did.
That keeps him from being up. He would have 3 more.
Right, which
Guaranteed.
is why I'm going to give you your VORP stat, even though you're against it. But this will make you happier.
I don't like VORP.
To prove your
that's all right.
point. Well, it's not VORP. It's RTOT.
What's that? Wait a minute.
I think that's like a range indicator or something.
Yes.
A range indicator.
Dude, this is proving your point, so let me
go
do
ahead.
it for
If you
you,
want to do
John.
it for your
Do you
point.
want your point, yes or no?
No, I just made my point.
The RTOT is total fielding runs above average. It tracks the range, everything that you can get, right?
Right.
So the best in Major League Baseball is Zach Neto, not Howell Neto.
Wow.
Zach Neto of the Los Angeles Angels.
Not Sharknado.
The
Connor.
worst in Major League Baseball is Paul DeJong, who's been in Major League Baseball forever.
What's he like, 34?
He's 30, but he's been in
30?
baseball forever. He's at a
Jeez.
minus 14.
Okay.
Second worst is Trey Turner at minus 9.
Trey Turner has no range. I mean, like he's
Well,
an
that's what I'm
average.
saying.
He's an average guy. But I think he's average. Like that stat doesn't. When I think of Trey Turner's range, I think average.
Okay.
I don't think he's awful. I think he's terrible.
Right, and
We
I
had
don't have any issue with that, but you called him the worst
a
defensive
formal-
shortstop
a-
in baseball.
Hey, let's just say I was glad to hear from a former baseball player listening to the show, who did share that. Like you said, come
What
on,
does he know?
Come on, 300 some batting average.
I played in high
He
school.
said pencil him in every freaking day.
Yes.
But defensively, a butcher. A butcher.
I never said he
And that
wasn't.
is-
I said he
he's-
wasn't the worst
he's-
defensive
he's-
shortstop in baseball.
But he is, though.
All right.
I mean, come on.
Well, thank you for getting my ear.
Thank you.
Connor. It's time now for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
All right, so yesterday, Dan Orlovsky put out this list that we thought was pretty interesting because it's different. He put together a top 10 list of 7 different categories for quarterbacks. He broke down 7 categories: arm strength, ball placement, mechanics, decision-making, pocket presence, rushing ability, second reaction. Jalen Hurts is in 2 of them. That does not mean that he stinks. He just went really deep into this. So let's start with Jalen Hurts because this is the jumping off point. And the conversation is whether or not we overrate Jalen Hurts here in the city. And we do it because we have the green goggles on. And I get it, man. Like, I would so much rather have a franchise quarterback than not. So I might lean on the side of I believe I have one. If I'm on the fence, I'll probably lean the positive.
But do you think we do? If, like, our listenership listening right now, like, do you think them driving in their car today or listening at their desk or whatever it is, getting ready for work, do you think they think we overrate him or do you think that we bludgeon the guy?
Dude,
Because I don't believe he
doesn't get bludgeoned.
Not on our show. I think Jalen Hurts gets more positive and more wiggle room as a quarterback than honestly any quarterback in Philly as long as I've been doing sports talk radio.
Like we said yesterday, the floor is 4-2 when they're taking on the Nationals and the Marlins. Marlins first, then Nationals for 6 games this week.
And I'm fine with that. And yesterday I must have said it to Connor, the 4-2 I'd be fine with, and I had an email or give me grief about it saying, boy, set the bar low. I don't consider win 67% of your games.
Yeah, that's not setting the bar low. No, that's
even though I'd love to see a 5-1 week because I think everybody would just go, calm down. Seriously, just calm the hell down.
Kind of, until they play the other opponents.
No, I get you,
and
but
if they struggle.
Yeah, but I think it would eradicate the people who can't do math.
Right.
They're like, they're not going to make the playoffs. This team. This is how bad it is. No, it's not.
So you know what?
Do math.
Screw it. You know what? I'm saying 5-1's the floor.
Okay, you're being.
No.
That's crazy.
The all-time fleece job in sports history. And I'm not saying this to be funny. Hassan Reddick has requested a trade from the New York Jets because of that contract that he was so willing to play under in New York, not here.
The one that he flat out lied to the Jets about.
Yes.
Lied.
He is now requesting a trade.
Yep.
So Howie Roseman, he traded away a player and got draft capital in return, not for a guy that, he's cooked, he's not as good as he once was. No, for a guy that might not play.
And remember now, we now know, the Jets traded for him. The Jets made him a contract offer. And after he got the contract offer and rejected it from the Jets, he said this: whatever happens, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to give my all no matter what. That's just who I am as a person. He is a bold-faced liar.
From the Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com. Jeff McLane on the Comcast Business Hotline.
But the Eagles, certainly, they're going to want their first team to play a lot of snaps because my guess is they're not going to play on Thursday, especially if they get to go work out in here. And that'll be it. This will be the most important day for most of the starters ahead of the opener in Brazil.
So that means Jalen Hurts should be somewhere in the middle. But if we say 8th, I think there are some people that
who then see disrespect.
That's too low.
Yes,
he was an MVP candidate 2 years ago, and last year, at one point, he was an MVP candidate before everything went to crap, which, by the way, he was part of the reason why everything went to crap.
Yeah, I mean, when he walked off the field against the Buffalo Bills that Monday morning,
MVP.
He was leading the MVP odds.
Yeah, and then
a
couple weeks ago, and he was horrible, except for a few games. The team was horrible.
Yes.
And the season fell apart, and the season died, and the chances of doing anything completely collapsed. And you saw that just based off of wins and losses, but then we've since read about it, heard about it with other stories that has come out from that season. But the player, forget all the nonsense of drama. The player, do we overrate Jalen Hurts in this city because he is our franchise quarterback?
How did we fit all that in today? Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Make a donation today to the AACR, the American Association for Cancer Research. Go to 975thefanatic.com/AACR. I'm living proof 3 times over. Cancer research saves lives.
All right, back at it tomorrow on a Shefty Wednesday and maybe even more.